David, I have brought you a ring from God and some questions. Gather your sons as incredible similarities with the ring in the Lord of the Rings. It's mentioned in the Old Testament and many ancient esoteric books. Whoever possesses the ring can rule the world. So who is looking for this ring with extraordinary powers today? Who will find it and rule the world? There are so many things you need to know about this ring that disappeared thousands of years ago, the death of the prophet Solomon. According to the sources, the ring will fall into the hands of a surprising power in the future, and will use it on humans. Let's start if you are ready to listen to the unbelievable mysteries of the great powers of the ring, the news that it has been captured in Turkey. When Adam and Eve were sent to Earth from paradise thousands of years ago, Adam brought a ring with him, a ring gifted to him by the Almighty God. This ring from paradise had a special knowledge that gave extraordinary powers to the wearer who wore it on his finger under earthly conditions. When Adam left paradise, the ring left paradise with him. This ring with the inscription, "Property belongs to God," was to return to paradise. After Adam, who is rumored to have lived on earth for about a year, passed away, the ring also returned to paradise. A very long time had passed. Mankind had multiplied on the earth, and different societies had sprung up all over the planet. God gave the angel Gabriel a mission concerning the ring. It was decided that the ring should be brought and given to a person who had been on earth for some time. The person to whom the ring of power was to be given was none other than David. Gabriel, with God's permission, took the ring and landed on the earth next to Prophet David. The ring of power was leaving paradise for the second time. Who was David, and what was he doing at that time? And for what purpose was the ring brought to him? The prophet David was a ruler who lived about 1,000 years after Abraham. A shepherd who tended his family's sheep and lambs as a boy, David became an adult and took charge of the army in his country. But he had not yet become beloved by everyone. At that time, a giant warrior called Goliath was the sworn enemy of the children of Israel, and he was almost invincible. Until the day David fought on behalf of the Israelites and defeated the giant Goliath. Although Goliath is referred to as a giant in many sources, his actual height is thought to have been between 2 and 3 meters. During a battle, David challenged Goliath and used a slingshot to defeat the giant Goliath, attracting the attention of everyone. In the end, by God's permission, they defeated them, and David killed Goliath. God gave him dominion and wisdom and taught him what he willed. If it were not for God's preventing one part of mankind and another part of mankind, there would be no order in the earth. But God has great favors for the worlds. We understand that God gave David special favors, and we think that there was a secret plan in giving him the ring. The one who wore this ring with God's name on it would be given the power to rule the demons, the winds, and the beasts with God's permission. When Gabriel brought the ring to David, this is what happened between them. David, I have brought you a ring from God and some questions. Gather your sons as God has commanded, and ask each one of them these questions that I will tell you. Whoever answers correctly will succeed you, and you will give him this ring. He will be ruler over the whole world, said Gabriel. David then called an assembly of his people together, and in the presence of everyone he asked his sons one by one the questions he had received from Gabriel. There were different questions such as, what is the most beautiful thing in the world, and what is the ugliest thing in the world? Or what is the coarsest thing in the world, And what is the sweetest thing in the world? And only Solomon answered all the questions correctly. Solomon was one of David's 19 sons, and in my previous video I explained in detail that he was one of the 19 sons of David, so if you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check it out after this video. Solomon answered all the questions correctly, but there was one thing that his father David was not happy about, and that was that Solomon was smiling uncomfortably as he answered each question. David said, "Yes, he answered all the questions correctly, but I don't understand why in the presence of so many people he humiliated me by smiling in an unseemly way as he answered each question." Solomon replied, "I did not know the right answers to these questions, but after each question, an ant standing over there tells me the right answer. I was telling you what I heard from him. It seems that Solomon had gotten all the answers from an ant. But that would not affect David's decision. After all, Solomon had got all the answers right, and he said that even if it was an ant, there must be some wisdom in it, as long as the main purpose was to reach God. And so the ring was passed from Adam to David, and finally to Solomon, with God's permission and Gabriel's fulfillment of his mission. This ring will pass into the hands of one more person, and you will be amazed when you hear who it is, because this person will use it on the people on the earth in the future. So don't go anywhere. Now let's get to know the ring a little more closely. The ring of the prophet Solomon, also known as the Seal of Solomon, is believed to have the unknown name of God hidden on it, which only very few people and angels have learned. Because of this secret knowledge, Prophet Solomon was given great power by God's permission. He became one of the greatest rulers who ever lived and ruled the jinn and the animals and the winds. Solomon used to wear the ring on his finger when he wanted to rule over these things, and he gave his orders early on the ring finger. Solomon's seal, the ring, is pronounced by Christians as the Star of David. Since Solomon was one of the sons of Israel, the Jews replaced the Star of David's symbol on the ring with the flag of Israel. Although you might think that the Star of David is a symbol of Israel or even of the Freemasons, in fact, historically, Israel has been using this symbol for a very short period of time. It was used even in the Ottoman Empire and became popular in the Islamic world. The similarity of the story of this ring of power that the Prophet Solomon had with the events of the Lord of the Rings movies is quite remarkable. We have seen the story of a ring of power that gives its owner supernatural abilities. Is the news about the discovery of the ring real? Recently, an 800-year-old door with the Star of David on it was found in a village in Samsun's Ladik district. What happened in Turkey is quite interesting. There was news that one of the historical artifacts seized as a result of an operation in Amasya was estimated to be the Seal of Solomon. I will come to this issue in a moment, but first I will tell you a striking story about a well-known story about the Ring of Solomon and what some scholars say about this issue. According to a Jewish story, when Solomon used to go to the toilet, he would not put his face inside and would hand it over to his wife. It was at such a time that a genie disguised as Solomon tricked Solomon's wife and took the ring from her. The real Solomon, coming out of the toilet, realized what had happened and demanded the ring back from the genie. But the genie disguised as Solomon drove the real prophet Solomon out of the palace and began to rule himself. According to the legend, after this incident, Solomon began to live in a fishing town, working for fishermen. Years later, when the genie threw the ring into the sea so that no one could get hold of it, one evening the fish that Suleiman had eaten came out of his stomach, and thus came back to Suleiman himself. Putting the ring back on his finger, Suleiman went back to the palace and took over the reign. It is a story that is told and known by many people, so there is even a proverb that says, "Whoever has the ring is Solomon." If God had given demons and jinn the ability to disguise themselves as prophets and take the place of prophets, as this story says, it would have undermined.
The Holy Pentacles from the Key of Solomon are ancient and mysterious artifacts with an intriguing allure. Their origins can be traced back to the Renaissance-era grimoire called the Key of Solomon. Within the pages of this weathered book is a wealth of wisdom and intricate rituals, unveiling a complex and fascinating ancient magical system. Exploring this early text reveals a world of hidden secrets and esoteric knowledge. In contemporary magic, many practitioners, myself included, have adopted an approach that involves working with the pentacles independently from the intricate rituals outlined in the actual grimoire, the Key of Solomon. I work with the Holy Pentacles of Solomon within the angel magic system I practice, and I will share this practice with you. I have included all the information you need to use the Pentacles of Solomon effectively in this little booklet. These sacred seals, filled with ancient wisdom and centuries of magical use, can profoundly change your life. Whether you seek healing, protection, abundance, love, manifestation, or spiritual growth, these symbols can help you to achieve it. This booklet contains detailed descriptions and traditional uses for each seal. By studying these descriptions, you can better understand the powers that each pentacle represents. It's important to note that these seals have unlimited potential beyond the specific purposes listed for each one. They can help you in accessing countless possibilities and can be utilized in ways only limited by your imagination and intention. So just to reiterate, the traditional uses of the pentacles are good to read, to give you a glance into what the attitude of the pentacle is, and then you can use that to inform your use of those. So even if the use isn't exactly what is stated in the description, you can get an idea if it seems to be the right pentacle for you. The teaching angels and the pentacles. These special pentacles, also known as the Holy Pentacles, were allegedly crafted and blessed by the angelic forces who govern the 7 planets corresponding to the days of the week. Each planet's angel has a unique sphere of influence encompassing various aspects of life and existence. Selecting the appropriate angel to work with is essential, as they each guide and assist in harnessing the specific energies associated with their planet. We can tap into this angelic power by aligning ourselves with these divine forces to transform our lives. When working with the power of planetary angel magic, it is essential to establish a solid connection with the teaching angel that aligns with your specific need or desire. By invoking the right angel for each assistance area, you ensure that your sacred rituals are in harmony with the celestial energies that open you up to their profound cosmic powers. For instance, if your business needs to be blessed with more success, you might ask Michael of the Sun, who governs business success. If your relationship needs to be blessed with harmony, you would likely work with Anael of Venus, who rules relationships, love, partnerships, etc. And you want to try to do your best to align yourself with the angel of the planet that best rules your desire or your goal or your problem. Timing your spells. Planning and performing your magical operations on the specific day of the week ruled by the corresponding angel is vital to establishing the connection and synergy between you and the angelic forces you desire to contact. This amplifies the potency and success of your magical work. If you cannot perform your entire spell on the correct day, you can begin with a small task on the designated day and complete the remaining steps within 7 days on any day or hour that suits your schedule. For instance, you might cut the square for your pentacle on the designated day and continue the remaining steps on a later day. Alternatively, if you can't work on the correct day, you can perform your magic on a Wednesday during the hour of the angel you want to work with. Wednesday is governed by Mercury, and its angel Raphael, who's known as the messenger, can connect you with any angelic energy required for any situation. If you choose to work on any day other than the angel's own day, Selecting the correct angelic hour corresponding to the angel you're invoking is crucial. So if you decide to work on Wednesday, make sure that you work in the angel's hour. You could technically work on any day that is compatible with your angel, and to get all of that information, you'll want to take my basic angel magic course. Otherwise, for the simplicity of this particular system that we're working with today, instead of going into all of that, if you don't know about the compatible days, either work on the day of the week of your angel or work on a Wednesday in their hour. The lunar cycle. You can quickly locate the times of the full moon and the new moon on calendars. However, it's worth noting that what is labeled as the new moon on calendars is termed the dark moon by many magical practitioners. In traditions like Solomonic and angel magic, it is customary to refrain from practicing magic during this dark moon phase. In these magic traditions, the new moon refers to when a visible crescent can be observed in the sky. Thus, the new moon always occurs at least one day after what is indicated as a new moon on a calendar. To err on the side of caution, it's advisable to perform new moon magic at least one day after what is referred to as the new moon in standard calendars. The period of 2 weeks between the dark moon and the full moon is commonly referred to as the waxing phase, because we observe the moon waxing or growing larger. Conversely, the 2 weeks between the full moon and the dark moon is known as the waning phase, as it is when we witness the moon gradually decreasing in size each night. During the waxing phase, focus on magic that involves attracting things or promoting growth. On the other hand, the waning phase is best suited for intentions aimed at eliminating or removing elements from our lives. To perform new moon magic, select the first day of the week after the new moon that corresponds to the angel you want to invoke. For waning moon magic, choose the first day following the full moon governed by the angel you wish to call upon. The 7 teaching angels. In angel magic, the planetary pentacles are linked to their corresponding archangel. While other angels and spirits may be mentioned in the pentacles, those are under the direction of the archangel. This means that we don't need to communicate with other beings, as they are under the archangel's authority. This systematic approach ensures a smooth and effective magical practice. When choosing a Pentacle of Solomon to use, it is highly beneficial to carefully examine the detailed descriptions of the seals associated with the ruling planet that align with your desired outcome. Choose the seal that resonates harmoniously with the specific energy you want to infuse into your spell. Focus more on what you perceive to be the seal's attitude rather than being overly concerned if the particular purposes mentioned in the descriptions differ from your intentions. Rest assured, any seal connected to the angel's governing planet can be used for matters within its sphere of influence, so there's no need to worry about making the wrong choice. And I probably should have mentioned in the text that seal, pentacle, talisman, all are synonymous in this particular text. So when it's talking about the seals, it's talking about the pentacles. So if you notice that one planet has 7 different pentacles, then you can choose any of those pentacles to work with that archangel. Any of them. But if you go through each of them and you see what they are traditionally used for, you can fine-tune things and see which attitude best suits your particular spell. But all of those pentacles are under the same archangel. All of the pentacles of the sun are under Michael. All of the pentacles of the moon are under Gabriel, etc. So you don't have to worry if you make a wrong choice, because it's still going to get you where you want to go. It's just that you can start to deepen your practice and fine-tune your methods. Personalizing your pentacles. The simplest method of working magic with a Solomon pentacle is printing, cutting it out, and writing a petition on the back. So you can just take this book, print out the seals, print out the pentacles, choose one that you want to work with, cut it out, write your petition in English on the back in a regular ballpoint pen, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So that's the simplest way of doing it. However, as you work within this system, you may desire to deepen your practice. There are many different ways to establish a stronger bond with the pentacle. One of the easiest methods is to personalize your pentacle by printing it out and then coloring it using crayons, pens, colored pencils, or paints. Angels are associated with specific colors, and using their colors in combination with contrasting and harmonious colors can create a very potent pentacle for you. You could also draw the pentacle from scratch using a compass, ruler, protractor. You could also trace the pentacle. Like you put a piece of tracing paper over the pentacle after you print it out and trace it yourself. And then transfer that traced pentacle onto another sheet of paper. You could print it out in gray and trace over the gray lines using ink, paint, pencil, or other medium. So there's all kinds of ways that you can personalize your pentacle and put more work into it rather than just printing it out and writing a petition. But you might want to just start out with printing it out and writing a petition, just to get your feet wet. Personalizing pentacles in a way that works best for you is crucial. You don't have to worry if you think that you lack artistic ability. You've seen mine. They're not great works of art, but they work. Most people find that creating a hand-drawn, traced, or colored pentacle is much more potent than using a plain printed one because of the extra attention they give it. Traditionally, it's common to sprinkle your pentacle with salt water and wave it through incense before charging it under a white candle or a candle in the color associated with the angel.
Demons have always been a concept that instills fear in people. Humans have feared and avoided these supernatural beings since ancient times, and this fear persists to this day. In almost every written record about demons, there is a common theme that these creatures always disdain and seek to harm humans. However, in history, there is a figure who possessed the power to command even the most powerful demons from the depths of hell. Today, let's explore the story of King Solomon, the legendary tale of his 72 demons in the Tales of Mythology journal. King Solomon, also known as Shlomo or Jedediah, was the third king of the United Kingdom of Israel. He is mentioned in various important texts such as the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and the Quran. Solomon is one of the most famous kings in the history of Israel, often regarded as the wealthiest and wisest king. He was the son and successor of another renowned king, King David, famous for defeating the giant Goliath in battle. According to historical records, Solomon's reign spanned from around 970 to 931 BCE. He was the last king of the United Kingdom of Israel, as his death led to the division of the ancient land. Solomon, as depicted in the Old Testament, is renowned for his wisdom and is considered the wisest king in the Bible. At the age of 12, when he inherited the throne from his father, King David, Solomon prayed to God for wisdom to lead and guide his people. God answered his prayer and granted him great wisdom because Solomon did not ask for wealth or long life like other kings. God also promised Solomon wealth and fame that no other king could match. When one mentions King Solomon, thoughts of a wise ruler, a great prophet, and a revered king come to mind. Despite Solomon's wisdom, he still committed many sins, but he remains an essential historical figure in various religions. The Seal of Solomon, one of the most famous legends about this great king, involves Solomon's ability to control 72 powerful demons from hell. The origin of this legend is believed to stem from a work called The Key of Solomon, which dates back to the 1st century. In this work, it is mentioned that King Solomon could command demons using a ring created by the Archangel Michael. According to the historical account in this book, Solomon prayed in a temple to seek protection against a demon named Onias. The Archangel Michael responded to Solomon's prayer and bestowed upon him a ring with the seal of God, shaped like a 5-pointed star. With this ring, King Solomon could subdue and command demons, starting with Onias, and including Beelzebub and many others. He commanded the demons to build a temple for him. Besides this document, many religious works also mention that King Solomon possessed a magical ring that allowed him to control demons. This ring is called the Seal of Solomon, and it bears a magical symbol, often referred to as the Star of David, or David's shield. This symbol later became associated with Judaism. In modern times, with such divine powers, the Seal of Solomon has become a famous relic in history. Treasure hunters have sought this relic for centuries, but there is no record of anyone possessing this treasure except for King Solomon. The 72 Demons of King Solomon. The most famous book about the 72 demons of King Solomon is The Lesser Key of Solomon, published and circulated around the mid-17th century. It is divided into 5 parts, with the first part called Ars Goetia, providing detailed information about all 72 demons. This book is closely related to Johann Weier's work,
Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, written in the 16th century, which mentions only 69 demons. Another earlier work titled Le Livre des Esprits also mentions 46 demons similar to the ones above. Among these works, information about the demons has some similarities but also some differences. The legendary tale of King Solomon's 72 demons that we often hear today is derived from the book Ars Goetia within the Lesser Key of Solomon. In Ars Goetia, there is clear information about the 72 demons, including how to summon and control them. Each demon has its own sigil, and Ars Goetia is the only book that depicts all these sigils along with illustrative images of the 72 demons. I must warn you not to attempt to summon demons on your own under any circumstances. Ars Goetia also narrates that during Solomon's lifetime, he became so afraid of the power of these demons that he bound and sealed them in copper boxes, which were then thrown into a deep lake. When the Babylonians found these boxes, they opened them, thinking they contained treasures, inadvertently releasing the 72 demons trapped inside. It is believed that these demons returned to their respective realms, except for one demon named Belial, who returned to the human world. According to the tradition, these demons built a temple for Solomon under his command. Due to video time constraints, I cannot provide detailed information about all 72 demons of King Solomon recorded in Ars Goetia. I will now highlight some of the most prominent demons. Asmodeus, mentioned in many documents, is often referred to as the King of Demons. According to Islamic writings, Asmodeus has many legends associated with King Solomon, making him the most troublesome demon for this king. Asmodeus is the 32nd demon in the list, a very powerful demon, known as a king of hell and one of the 7 princes of hell according to the Bible. Asmodeus represents the sin of lust among the 7 deadly sins. This demon often appears with 3 heads: a bull's head, a human head, and a ram's head. His tail is a fiery serpent, and he rides on the back of an immortal dragon, wielding a spear. Asmodeus commands 72 legions of demons and can answer any question in the world while making the summoner invisible. One ancient tale tells of Asmodeus being captured by a Jewish man, using a powerful ring, and forced to serve King Solomon. Another legend relates how King Solomon once asked Asmodeus what could make demons stronger than humans. Asmodeus requested to be released and handed over the ring so that he could prove it to the king. Solomon agreed, but eventually Asmodeus threw the ring into the sea, and a fish swallowed it. After being released, Asmodeus betrayed Solomon and swallowed the king, reaching heights where one wing touched heaven and the other touched the earth, then spat Solomon out, sending him flying 400 miles. Solomon lost his power and wandered through many cities until he reached a city in the region of all men. There, he had a chance encounter and fell in love with Naamah, the daughter of King Amon. Because King Amon did not accept this love, he punished both by banishing them to a desert. Solomon and the daughter of the king roamed the desert until they reached a seaside city. There, Solomon bought a fish to eat, unknowingly purchasing the fish that had swallowed the magical ring. With the recovery of the ring, Solomon regained his kingdom and banished Asmodeus. Naamah later became the wife of the king, and she gave birth to Prince Rehoboam, Solomon's successor. Another famous tale about the Seal of Solomon recounts that Naamah later became the wife of the king, and she bore a son for King Solomon, Prince Rehoboam, who would later succeed him. A famous legend also tells of Solomon's son, stating that Asmodeus once disguised himself as King Solomon and seized the throne. He, along with visiting guests to King Solomon's palace, claimed that a magical ring had been thrown into the sea, and whoever possessed it would become the ruler. Many opportunists perished in pursuit of this demon's promise. According to Israeli folklore, when Asmodeus took the throne, King Solomon returned after 40 days and defeated this mighty demon before sealing it in an iron box thrown into the ocean. Numerous stories and myths associated with King Solomon and Asmodeus, mostly recounting their confrontations. This is why Asmodeus became one of the most famous demons. The name is often featured in movies depicting demons, or the art of exorcism. Baal, the first demon on the list, is also a well-known figure, sometimes recognized by the name Beelzebub, also known as the Lord of the Flies. Similar to Asmodeus, Baal is the king of hell and one of the 7 princes of hell according to the Bible. Beelzebub represents the sin of gluttony among the 7 deadly sins. According to many scholars, Beelzebub's name originates from Philistine mythology, where Baal means Lord in their language. Therefore, the name Beelzebub translates to Lord of the Flies. He is associated with decay and brings diseases to humans. In Le Grand Grimoire, Beelzebub leads all demons in hell and is second only to Lucifer in power. He is also the first demon listed in Johann Weier's Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum. According to this work, Baal is the first king of hell with dominion over the eastern realms, commanding 66 legions of demons. He often appears with 3 heads, a toad, a human, and a cat. Hence, Beelzebub is sometimes depicted as a giant fly wearing a crown. In ancient writings, Baal and Lucifer seem to have many similarities, leading some to mistakenly believe they are the same. However, later documents highlight the differences between Beelzebub and Lucifer. Beelzebub is considered the second-ranking fallen angel, after Lucifer in the fallen angels hierarchy. In the Solomon Bible, Beelzebub was once one of the most powerful angels in heaven, associated with the evening star, while Lucifer was associated with the morning star. Beelzebub claimed responsibility for the cruelty of tyrants, fueling envy, murder, and war among humans. He encouraged human desires, jealousy, and violence. For enthusiasts of horror films, especially in the horror genre, there is a demon from Solomon's list that they may easily recognize: Valak, the 62nd demon. According to Ars Godia, Valak is a grand president of hell, commanding 30 legions of demons. He can reveal the location of hidden treasures and disclose where to find serpents. Valak appears in the form of a poor child with angel wings, riding a 2-headed dragon. In popular culture today, Valak is often associated with the image of a demonic nun, thanks to its appearances in famous movies such as The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle, and Creation. Despite this, apart from the name Valak, the portrayal of this demon in these movies bears little resemblance to Solomon's demon Valak. Belial is the 68th demon on the list and serves as a king of hell, commanding 80 legions of demons and 50 legions of souls. To summon this demon, a sacrificial ritual is required. Otherwise, he will not respond to the summoner's request. Belial is said to be the only demon still lurking in the human world. According to Ars Godia, Belial is the second fallen angel after Lucifer. However, there is not much documentation about this demon. Alongside the 2 prominent demons, Baal and Asmodeus, in the list of Solomon's 72 demons are 7 other powerful demons, bearing the title of Kings of Hell: Paimon, Belial, Vine, Bure, Barbados, Astaroth, and Vasago. Beneath these 7 kings are 23 demons with the titles of Duke, 7 princes, 15 marquises, 5 earls, 1 knight, and 12 presidents of hell. Despite their varying ranks, all are considered the most powerful demons in hell. The legend of King Solomon and his 72 demons is one of the oldest and most enduring myths in human history. The story often brings excitement to demonologists and religious researchers alike. Whether the great King Solomon truly existed, or the mystical ring with the power to control demons is real, no one can say for certain. Perhaps somewhere out there, the 72 demons, once freed from their confinement, are still hiding, awaiting summoning from their master. Demons have always been a concept that instills fear in people. Humans have feared and avoided these supernatural beings since ancient times, and this fear persists to this day. In almost every written record about demons, there is a common theme that these creatures always disdain and seek to harm humans. However, in history, there is a figure who possessed the power to command even the most powerful demons from the depths of hell. Today, let's explore the story of King Solomon and the legendary tale of his 72 demons in the Tales of Mythology journal. King Solomon, also known as Shlomo or Jedediah, was the 3rd king of the United Kingdom of Israel. He is mentioned in various important texts such as the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and the Quran. Solomon is one of the most famous kings in the history of Israel, often regarded as the wealthiest and wisest king. was the son and successor of another renowned king, King David, famous for defeating the giant Goliath in battle. According to historical records, Solomon's...
What power must a man hold to command those who once defied the heavens? There are stories so heavy they cannot be told in the light. They are spoken when the stars are watching and the sand no longer moves, when the night stretches wide and time forgets to pass. Stories like this do not begin. They are already waiting behind the veil of your eyelids, in the silence before your first breath, in the forgotten names whispered by winds that cross deserts no map dares name. This is the story of a man who knelt only to the One, a prophet whose voice did not rise in anger but in command so holy, even the jinn fell silent. It is said his ring bore the name of God, that it gleamed with a seal etched not by man, but by angels forged from heaven's fire and earth's dust. They called it the Ring of Solomon, but it was no mere ornament. It was a covenant, a throne in miniature. With it, the king of the wind could bind the necks of demons and make spirits build temples by moonlight. But such power is never held without price. If you are still here, then perhaps this tale was always written for you. Tell me softly from where beneath the sky do you listen tonight. And if the hush within you feels ready, leave a trace, a light, a whisper. Press like, press subscribe, so the next forgotten scroll may find its way to you. Now close your eyes and listen as the scroll unrolls. As you listen, may your heart grow still. The story begins now before the gold, before the throne, before the ring that turned shadows into servants. There was only a boy with quiet eyes that studied the earth as though it spoke to him, and a silence in his chest that echoed louder than thunder. He did not laugh like other children, nor did he chase the sun across the fields like his brothers. Instead, he listened to the birds at dusk, to the stones beneath his feet, to the wind that carried the names of the old prophets through the almond trees. He was the son of a king, yes, but even kings cannot shape the soul of a child. That is the work of the heavens, and from the moment he first breathed, the heavens were watching. His name was Suleiman, and though the people called him prince, the stars already called him Hakim, the one who would be given wisdom beyond years, beyond time, beyond blood. It is said that when he was still a boy, he wandered into the hills alone for many days, and when they found him, his mouth was dry from silence, and his eyes were wet with knowing, for he had spoken to something in the wind, and the wind had answered, but they did not believe him, not yet. Not even his father, Dawud, whose voice turned iron into praise and psalms into prophecy, could see the fullness of the fire hidden beneath his son's stillness. Yet the jinn could see it, even then, and they trembled. For it is written, when a soul is chosen to carry the seal of the unseen, the earth itself will hold its breath. Shadows gather, spirits murmur. The ground cracks not from weight, but from waiting. The heavens prepare the ink, the angels prepare the flame, and time begins to fold in anticipation. Solomon was not yet a prophet, not yet a king, but already strange things happened when he prayed. One evening, long before the ring, he sat alone by a river. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and the reeds around him sang soft lullabies to the night. But Solomon did not sleep. He whispered a prayer, not loud, not learned, but raw, something he carried from the marrow of his bones. A yearning not for power, nor gold, nor armies, but for closeness to the one who hears all things. And the river stilled. The wind vanished. The trees ceased their weeping. And for the first time, the air grew heavy with presence. He did not see the face. No eye sees the face of the unseen and lives unchanged. But he felt the silence shift, felt the weight of eternity press upon the skin of the moment. And then he heard it, a name not made of letters, but of light, not shouted, not spoken, given, placed gently into the center of his soul like fire into dry wood. It did not burn, but it changed everything. That night Solomon returned home, his steps lighter than air, his silence deeper than sleep. And though no one knew why, even the animals turned to look when he passed. They would not understand, not yet, but the watchers of the unseen did. In the unseen realm, they whispered among themselves, The boy has been touched, one said. Not touched, said another, claimed. He has not called upon us yet. He will, and so they waited, but not all were pleased. Among the spirits and jinn, there are those who bow to the most high creatures made of smokeless flame who remember the command at the beginning of time, and there are those who still carry the curse of defiance, who followed the first to fall, who roam the edges of men's minds and wait for invitations born of arrogance and hunger. They saw the boy. They saw what was being prepared, and they ted him for it was known that from the line of Dawud would come a ruler whose seal would bind even the wildest of them, whose voice would chain them to stone and silence their curses. And so they began to whisper in the dreams of the weak. But dreams do not move the will of the heavens. The fire had already been lit. In the days that followed, Solomon began to see beyond veils. When he closed his eyes in prayer, he saw cities made of breath, towers built from wind, oceans that held memories instead of salt. He knew things no teacher had told him, understood patterns in bird song, meaning in the swaying of trees, sorrow in the face of a dying animal. He was still a boy, but something ancient moved through him, something older than the mountains that fed the rivers. And then came the night of the vision. He was sleeping, or so they thought. But inside the stillness of his chest, the sky split open. A light descended not with fire, but with memory. A scroll was handed to him, not written in ink, but in obedience. And beside it a ring, simple, circular, a stone set in gold, upon it a seal no hand had.
Yo, so abusia and me pese yeti bibi kakre.
These symbols are
डिक्की पमिस्ट्री में आपका स्वागत है। अगर किसी हाथ में इस माउंट पे
Hello everybody, very welcome to our channel, and on our channel we are talking lots of things about spirituality, about magic, and there are of course lots of free tarot readings as well. You can check it out on our channel. For that you simply need to subscribe, hit the notification bell icon to be notified for the live tarot sessions so that you can also join in. Along with that, you will get lots of absolutely free resources on our channel, which are something that will help you connect with the divine, with God, in order to work with the God, the guidance, the rituals, everything in order to work with the God to get your dream wishes fulfilled. So, let's get started towards today's video. So in this video, we are going to talk about the magical Solomon seals, and we are going to cover the first seal of Solomon, which is the seal of sun, first pentacle of sun. And we are going to look into how to activate and charge it and how you can use it and for what purpose you're going to use it. Okay, so first of all, let me talk about what are the seal of Solomon. Solomon is one of the ancient king known to have a lot of magical knowledge and skills and powers and authority. We are not going in deep about the King Solomon here, but he had lots and lots of magical knowledge and tools and techniques. So he has almost 16 or so various seals which are well known as the seals of Solomon. Each of them is connected with particular planet. Now that's the reason they are also well known as, like, this is the first seal of Solomon, also known as the first pentacle of sun. Then there is also a first pentacle of Venus, first pentacle of Jupiter, and so on and so forth. So here the magical seals are connecting us to whom? With whom are we going to work? On my channel, I will talk about connecting with the divine beings who are light beings, like who are angels and saints and magical figures from the light side. I personally have the values that I do not go into the demonology. So, every of this pentacle will connect us with the particular planetary energy and a particular group of the angels working with these energies. So, we are connecting with higher angels, you can say, and those planetary energies in order to bring that particular impact specified by the particular seal. I hope everybody is clear with it. What are the seals and how they're going to work, and with whom are we going to work? So they are definitely the angels with whom we are going to work. They are the divine light beings, very, very powerful light beings. And it is not a single light being like just a one angel. They are the group of angels who are working under that particular energy. So the group of those angels, not just one but entire group of those angels, will be activated, and those divine energies together will work for your particular wish fulfillment. So this is very, very, very powerful indeed. All of a sudden, sometimes back, lots of videos started talking all about the seals of Solomon. Then of course I also got interested in, and I did my own research on it. And when I studied the different pentacles, I can tell you that there is this one pentacle who will work for your every wish fulfillment. You may not carry multiple seals of Solomon here, okay? Right from the protection to any of your wish fulfillment. This is kind of like the king of all the pentacles. This is our first seal of Solomon. This is the first pentacle of Solomon. You must have it even when you will work with any other seals as well. And you can work with this one pentacle for protection and anything and everything that you are working on right now for your wish fulfillment. So this is this much important and this much powerful. So let's talk about how to work with this. Number one, you can literally call it as the king of all the seals of Solomon, the first pentacle of sun. This is something that you definitely have to activate, and then it will work for you, which is pretty much common sense. So let's talk about how to activate this first pentacle of sun. As the name itself suggests, this is very powerful, connecting with the sun energy. So we have to activate it when the energy of sun is very, very powerful. Like you can work it in the afternoon time, 12, or maybe after the sunset also. I read it in the literature. I do not know why, but yes, you can also do it because it was somewhere mentioned. And of course, whichever time that is best suitable for you, when you will get some time alone and you will not be disturbed in anything, you can work on it. But I highly recommend to work with this activation in the afternoon time. As per my knowledge, I can sense that
or Clavicula Salomonis, now first translated and edited from ancient manuscripts in the British Museum, by Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers, 1889, read by Dan Attrell. Chapter 1. Concerning the divine love which ought to precede the acquisition of this knowledge. Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, hath said that the beginning of our key is to fear God, to adore him, to honor him with contrition of heart, to invoke him in all matters which we wish to undertake, and to operate with very great devotion, for thus God will lead us in the right way. When, therefore, thou shalt wish to acquire the knowledge of magical arts and sciences, it is necessary to have prepared the order of hours and of days, and of the position of the moon, without the operation of which thou canst effect nothing. But if thou observest them with diligence, thou mayest easily and thoroughly arrive at the effect and end which thou desirest to attain. Chapter 2. Of the days and hours and the virtues of the planets.
When thou wishest to make any experiment or operation, thou must first prepare beforehand all the requisites which thou wilt find described in the following chapters, observing the days, the hours, and the other effects of the constellations which may be found in this chapter. It is, therefore, advisable to know that the hours of the day and the night together are 24 in number, and that each hour is governed by one of the 7 planets in regular order, commencing at the highest and descending to the lowest. The order of the planets is as follows: Shabtai, Saturn. Beneath Saturn is Tzedek, Jupiter. Beneath Jupiter is Medim, Mars. Beneath Mars is Shemesh, the Sun. Beneath the Sun is Noga, Venus. Beneath Venus is Kokab, Mercury. And beneath Mercury is Labana, the Moon, which is the lowest of all the planets. It must therefore be understood that the planets have their dominion over the day which approacheth nearest unto the name which is given and attributed unto them, namely, over Saturday, Saturn, Thursday, Jupiter, Tuesday, Mars, Sunday, the Sun, Friday, Venus, Wednesday, Mercury, and Monday, the Moon. The rule of the planets over each hour begins from the dawn at the rising of the sun on the day which takes its name from such planet, and the planet which follows it in order succeeds to the rule over the next hour. Thus, on Saturday, Saturn rules the first hour, Jupiter the second, Mars the third, the Sun the fourth, Venus the fifth, Mercury the sixth, the Moon the seventh, and Saturn returns in the rule over the eighth, and the others in their turn, the planets always keeping the same relative order. Note that each experiment or magical operation should be performed under the planet and usually in the hour which refers to the same. For example, in the days and hours of Saturn, thou canst perform experiments to summon the souls from Hades, but only of those who have died a natural death. Similarly, on these days and hours, thou canst operate to bring either good or bad fortune to buildings, to have familiar spirits attend thee in sleep, to cause good or ill success to business, possessions, goods, seeds, fruits, and similar things, in order to acquire learning, to bring destruction and to give death, and to sow hatred and discord. The days and hours of Jupiter are proper for obtaining honors, acquiring riches, contracting friendships, preserving health, and arriving at all that thou canst desire. In the days and hours of Mars, thou canst make experiments regarding war, to arrive at military honor, to acquire courage, to overthrow enemies, and further to cause ruin, slaughter, cruelty, discord, to wound, and to give death. The days and hours of the sun are very good for perfecting experiments regarding temporal wealth, hope, gain, fortune, divination, the favor of prince.
This is a king blessed with unparalleled wisdom and power. This is the man who bent demons to his will. This is Pantheon mythology. And this is Solomon. If you too want to bend things to your will, check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by myths, folklore, and legends. We ship worldwide, underrated, excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description.
He was something else, something harder to explain. Solomon
never asked for gold, yet gold chased him. He never sought power, yet kings bowed before him. Why? because Solomon understood the one truth most men ignore. Wisdom is the root of all riches, not effort, not ambition, understanding. This speech is not about history. It is about you and the questions you've been unable to answer. Why do you still feel lost, though you work harder than ever? Why does your life lack direction, though you chase every goal? Why do you read, strive, push, yet remain without peace, without dominion? Because you have pursued what Solomon refused. You have sought results without law. You have chased success without understanding the structure that sustains it. In the next hour, I will hand you the principles that made Solomon the wisest man to ever live. You will learn how to govern your thoughts, how to build wealth without worshiping it, how to hear the voice of truth in silence, and how to become the kind of man God Himself would trust with abundance. If you are ready, let us begin. Introduction: The Secret Wisdom of King Solomon. You are about to unlock the spiritual logic behind one of the wisest men who ever walked this earth, not because he conquered lands or built empires by blood, but because he understood law. I speak not of modern law. I speak of the law behind all things, the law that governs power, gold, peace, and purpose. The law Solomon mastered. Most men today want gold, but few are willing to become gold. They want the palace, but neglect the cornerstone. Solomon asked not for gold, but for understanding, and the heavens answered. What he received, dominion, wealth, peace, and mastery, did not arrive by chance, war, or inheritance. It arrived by divine response to definite mental desire aligned with eternal law. You chase results, you grind, you copy strategy, you worship the external. But understand this, the ancients did not build temples, kingdoms, or dynasties with noise. They built in silence. They built by law. And Solomon built what no modern strategy can buy, a name that echoes through time. The real treasure was not Solomon's gold, but the mind that magnetized it. He aligned with divine law first, and all riches followed. That same law still governs wealth today, but men no longer seek it. They seek shortcuts. And for this, they remain slaves to systems they should command. You ask for influence, for abundance, for clarity. But let me ask you this, have you asked for understanding? Have you asked for the wisdom to govern that which you seek, or only for the outcome? Solomon asked rightly. He knew. The man who governs his own mind soon governs all things under heaven. What I am about to reveal will not comfort you. It will confront you, but truth always does. I will show you that you have not failed because of lack of tools, support, or timing. You have failed because you have not yet understood the laws Solomon obeyed, the wisdom that turns men into kings. And so I say to you now, I seek understanding above possessions. For when you understand, you will no longer chase gold, you will command it. For wisdom is wealth in seed form. When you plant it, nurture it, obey it, harvest will come, and no man, no system, no failure can take it from you. In this speech, I will teach you how to build wealth the way Solomon did, through inner law, through quiet clarity, through alignment with principle, through obedience to order. No modern trick will substitute for what you're about to learn. What follows is not hype, but hierarchy, not theory, but throne. Let this be your declaration. I become the ruler by ruling myself. Let that identity replace all others. The world has enough followers. It has enough noise. What it lacks, what it cries for, is the return of the man of law, the return of the one who rules first within, and therefore cannot be ruled from without. This is not for the man who wants ease. This is not for the man who seeks temporary advantage. This is for the man who desires dominion, not applause, power, not popularity, legacy, not luxury. And that man must learn as Solomon learned. Riches are not granted. They are revealed to those who seek wisdom. You have reached a line in the sand. Cross it. From this moment forward, speak no longer of your poverty. Speak no longer of what you lack. Begin to speak of understanding. Begin to speak of inner rule. Begin to move not by emotion, but by divine direction. Let Solomon's path become yours. I will walk you through the laws that created his empire. I will break down the order that secured his reign. And if you listen, not just with your ears, but with your soul, you will become as he became, the man who receives what others chase, the one who is trusted with what others misuse. The hour is now. Begin. Part 1. True wealth begins with understanding, not money. Solomon did not begin his reign with ambition for riches. He began it with reverence, with a question asked not by the greedy, but by the wise. Grant me an understanding heart. And because his desire aligned with eternal law, riches followed without him asking. Understanding was the magnet. Wealth was the result. The modern man reverses this law. He prays for the gold, not the mind to hold it. He begs for results, not for the wisdom that commands results. And so he remains a beggar, outside the gate of his own kingdom. What you pursue reveals what you worship, and what you worship determines what you become. Men fail not for lack of opportunity, but for lack of inner clarity. They ask, how do I get more? But never ask, how do I become more? Solomon knew the latter was the path. He became the man who could handle what others ruin. And because of that, what others chased him. Do not be fooled by noise. Do not be seduced by urgency. Most riches today are gained by force and lost by foolishness. But riches gained by understanding last for generations. Solomon's legacy was not in coins, but in the structure of his thinking. And so must yours be. Let this now become your inner creed. I do not chase riches. I command them by wisdom. For what you chase, you admit you do not control. But what you command by law, by principle, by order, it comes as servant, not as master. Gold must never be the goal. It must always be the result. Andrew Carnegie, too, followed this pattern. He did not surround himself with entertainers or flatterers. He surrounded himself with thinkers, men who could reason, calculate, and see what others missed. His wealth was a byproduct of his ability to think in long-term law. That is why it endured. The world honors the man of thought, not noise. It follows the one who speaks slowly, but acts decisively. Solomon ruled without raising his voice. His greatest victories were not on battlefields, but in courtrooms, in moments of judgment where understanding became sword and shield. He won by mind. You are to stop asking, how do I earn more? And begin asking, how do I understand better? You are not here to become a worker. You are here to become a wise man. One wise decision is worth more than 1,000 days of labor. For wisdom buys what sweat alone never can. Every day you must ask yourself, do I understand the laws behind what I'm doing? Or am I blindly performing tasks others created? Most men live in cycles they never chose. They copy, they imitate, they mimic, but they never understand. And because of that, their labor produces only crumbs. Solomon was not born into wisdom. He chose it, he asked for it, he made wisdom his priority, and in return, it made him a ruler. He prayed, give thy servant an understanding heart, that I may judge rightly. And heaven answered. Not because of his status, but because of his alignment with law. Let these words govern you now. I sow understanding and reap gold. Speak it aloud. Plant it in the soil of your mind. For gold is nothing more than the visible reward of invisible alignment. No man can fake this law. Either you become wise or you become weary. The choice is yours. You must now make study a ritual, not of trends, but of principles. Do not consume information, extract understanding. Do not hoard knowledge, apply judgment. Solomon studied nature, people, time, consequence. He saw through the surface of things. And for this, his words were law in his land. The fool memorizes quotes. The wise man lives the meaning behind them. The fool rushes into markets. The wise man waits, watches, judges, and moves once, with full authority. Understanding gives you leverage. One accurate move from a wise mind breaks 1,000 frantic motions from a confused one. You must now clear space for study. Build a law of reflection into your daily rhythm. As Solomon wrote Proverbs, so must you write your observations. What did you see today? What patterns repeated? What words led to gain? What actions led to loss? The man who studies his own life masters it. Solomon was a recorder, a teacher, a philosopher king. He did not simply live, he learned from living. His journals were scriptures. His laws became the structure of civilization, and this came not from privilege, but from hunger to understand. That same hunger must now enter you. Stop seeking secrets in new places. Begin building understanding from the old laws you've ignored. Honor, order, cause and effect. Stillness before decision. Purpose before motion. When you see clearly, you build permanently. That is what the wise man knows. That is what the rich man forgets. Let this final creed settle deep in your being. I do not chase riches. I command them by wisdom. I sow understanding and reap gold. Say it when you rise. Say it before you sleep. Say it until your bones believe it, and then act accordingly. Solomon became the wisest man on earth, not because he was born favored, but because he chose understanding over all else. Your wealth will follow suit. Part 2. The wise man governs his thoughts before his kingdom. Solomon declared, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." That verse is not poetry, it is law. A man's outer kingdom rises or collapses based on the state of his inner court. Thoughts are not idle, they are architects. And the man who fails to govern them will build a palace of sand. You cannot master land, wealth, relationships, or business if you cannot first master your reactions, your focus, your inner speech. The mind is either throne or battlefield. Solomon did not rise because of inheritance. He rose because he ruled within first. Peace on the outside began with order within. Men today are frantic. They want to control everything outside. People, politics, profits. But ask them, can you still your mind for 1 hour? Can you hold a vision in silence? Can you command your thoughts like soldiers? Most cannot, and that is why they fail. Power begins with thought governance. Solomon judged entire nations from the stillness of his inner wisdom. He could listen to 2 mothers argue over a child, and in a moment deliver a verdict that ended all doubt. That clarity did not come from charisma. It came from mastery of inner law. He had trained his thoughts into servants. Look at your own thoughts. Are they lifting you or draining you? Do they serve you or sabotage you? Every fear, every delay, every doubt is a reflection of an untrained mental parliament. The king must sit on the throne or the voices of chaos will reign. That king must be you. Henry Ford was not the most educated man, but he mastered focus. He trained his mind to stay on one idea until results obeyed. He made time for solitude. He walked silently with questions and returned with answers. This is what separates the leader from the laborer, a governed mind. Do not envy the man who appears successful if he is not at peace within. His gold will rot in his hand. His house will feel like a cage, because no external fortune can outshine the torment of an ungoverned inner world. Solomon's kingdom was great because his mind was first submitted to law. Write this now. I rule my thoughts, therefore I build. That is not opinion, it is principle. Every achievement you seek must first be formed in thought. Thought held in clarity, thought fueled by faith, thought refined by silence, until it becomes command, and command becomes manifestation. You must set law in your thinking. Wake up and decide, what thoughts do I allow? What doubts must be silenced? What affirmations must I repeat until they command obedience? A castle without guard falls. So does a mind without watchmen. Place guards at the gates of your attention. Let your creed be this: my outer world is the reflection of my inner law, and let your actions prove it. Begin each day in silence. Do not touch the world until you have spoken law into your thoughts. Speak your aim aloud. Replace complaint with command. Replace anxiety with order. Solomon sat on a throne, but his real power was invisible. It was in the rhythm of his heart, the structure of his values, the clarity of his attention. You must now build this same throne within. Do not wait until the world slows down. Rule now, or drift forever. Men build empires and lose them. They gain fame and fall into ruin. Why? Because they thought money could fix what only mental law could. They thought applause could substitute for inner peace. But Solomon knew all wealth built outside the boundaries of thought governance will destroy the builder. You do not need another plan. You need inner discipline. You need law of thought. You need silence before decisions. You need vision rehearsed until it becomes instinct. That is how kings move. That is how empires rise. The foundation is always unseen, but it determines everything. Write this and repeat it daily. I rule my thoughts, therefore I build. My outer world is the reflection of my inner law. Let these words become your daily anchor. Let them guide your focus, your speech, your actions. The man who does not rule within will be ruled by the world without. Solomon was not a man of haste. He was not swayed by trends. He knew that thought is seed, and every spoken word is water. He planted with intention. He spoke with calculation. And his kingdom was the harvest of his inner discipline. So shall yours be. Train yourself today. Guard your inner temple. If a thought does not build you, cast it out. If a word does not align with purpose, silence it. Speak only what strengthens. Think only what commands. Hold only the vision that lifts you. All else is noise. You do not need more energy. You need more governance of the energy you already possess. Stop scattering your attention. Start aiming your focus like a sword. The man who rules 10 thoughts completely will always outbuild the man who entertains 100 without control. Final command: begin each morning by declaring your mental law. Repeat aloud: today I rule my thoughts. Today I hold only what builds. Today I move as Solomon, quiet, firm, aligned. Do this for 90 days. Your mind will shift. Your energy will clarify. Your kingdom will begin. Part 3. Every man must ask for wisdom, like Solomon did before he is trusted with power. The man who seeks power before wisdom is a child playing with fire. He may build for a moment, but the structure will not last. Solomon was offered the chance to ask for anything: riches, enemies defeated, long life. But he asked for discernment. He knew that only wisdom could hold what power attracts. Many today ask for wealth without understanding how to rule it. They cry out for recognition without knowing who they are. They desire influence before they've established order within. And so what they gain quickly, they lose just as fast. For the law is eternal. Power demands structure, and structure demands wisdom. You ask why success delays, why wealth evades you, why opportunity circles but does not land? The answer is not in your circumstances. It is in your preparedness. Divine law does not grant command to the man who has not first proven himself capable of sustaining it without destruction. Look closely. Solomon's request pleased God because it was aligned with spiritual law. He did not ask selfishly. He asked lawfully. He asked for what would make him capable of building without collapsing. That is why God gave him not only wisdom, but everything he could have asked for and more. You must learn to pray, speak, and move like Solomon. Stop asking for more. Ask for the mind that can hold more. Ask for the character that sustains abundance. Ask for the discernment to make the right decision when no one is watching and no one will clap. When Andrew Carnegie built his empire, he did not seek talent first. He sought men with judgment. Men who would not panic under pressure. Men who would choose principle over impulse. That was wisdom in action. The fortune was built because the foundation was mental clarity. You were not denied power. You were protected from it. For power without preparation is poison. It blinds, it distracts, it multiplies the flaws already inside you. But when wisdom precedes reward, power becomes an instrument of construction, not destruction. Make this your creed. I ask for wisdom to match the wealth I will hold. I prepare my mind so my fortune may stand. These are not affirmations, they are laws to live by. Speak them aloud each day until your subconscious begins to obey. Write this now in your private journal. What must I understand in order to carry the future I desire? Do not skip this. Sit with it. Listen. That question is the gate. The answer you receive in silence will be more valuable than any seminar, book, or mentor, for it will come from your inner court. Power tests you. It magnifies who you are in secret. If you cannot govern your desires in obscurity, you will be overthrown in visibility. Solomon understood this. He built first within, and God gave him dominion without. That is the eternal order. Obey it. Do not say you want millions if you cannot manage hundreds. Do not say you want to lead if you cannot lead your own schedule. Do not declare that you are ready for expansion if you still delay the basic disciplines of daily life. That is mockery to the law of wisdom. Begin each week with a review. Have I governed my time? Have I managed my mind? Have I ruled over appetite, speech, emotion? This is your throne room. Your dominion does not begin with a title. It begins with how you handle 24 hours. God gives more to him who masters little. Thomas Edison tested over 10,000 materials before discovering the filament for the light bulb. Why? Because he was obsessed with understanding, not shortcuts. He built a mind that could endure delay. That is wisdom. And that is why his invention shaped generations. You must burn every shallow prayer. You must stop asking for escape. Ask instead for insight. Ask to become the type of man Solomon became. One who rules by discernment. One who multiplies because he first submitted to law. One who waits patiently, learns deeply, moves decisively. Affirm this into your bloodstream. I will not seek shortcuts. I will seek structure. I will not ask for gold. I will ask for understanding. And by law, I will receive both. Say it until your flesh resists. Say it until your fears retreat. Say it until it becomes instinct. This part of the journey is the most painful because it exposes the truth. You are not lacking opportunity. You are lacking capacity. And that capacity must be developed through daily seeking of wisdom, through practice, through silence, through law. Make a vow today, I will spend 1 hour each week in solitude asking only one question. What must I understand to build what I desire? No devices, no noise, just silence and truth. Solomon's wisdom came in quiet. So will yours. Power without wisdom is temporary noise. Wisdom without power is hidden gold. But wisdom with power, this is dominion. And you were born not just to succeed, but to reign in thought, in speech, in behavior, in discipline, in destiny. That reign begins when you, like Solomon, ask not for riches, but for discernment. From this moment on, you will stop chasing results. You will start becoming the man who can carry them. You will no longer weep over delay. You will rejoice over preparation. And when the hour of power comes, you will be ready. Part 4. A wise man knows when to speak and when to remain silent. A single word can crown a man or destroy him. Solomon's throne did not stand upon stone or gold alone. It stood upon judgment. Upon the razor's edge of language, he could end a war with one sentence, divide truth from deception with a single reply. Such is the weight of wisdom spoken at the right time. You are taught today that confidence is noise, that power is volume, that dominance is in speaking first. This is a lie. Real power is measured in restraint. The fool speaks everything he knows. The wise man holds what others beg to hear. Solomon ruled through words, not because he spoke often, but because when he spoke, law followed. Your life right now, look at it, is not shaped by what you know. It is shaped by what you say. The words you speak over your future, the tone you use in conflict, the silence you break when patience would have preserved your peace. Understand, speech is not expression, speech is creation. Every word you say becomes law in the world you inhabit. Solomon's power did not come from an army. It came from timing, the discipline to wait until truth revealed itself, the strength to hold his tongue until speaking would bring clarity, not confusion. This, too, you must master if you would be ruler over your own domain. I will tell you what men do not realize. Most of your battles are lost because you spoke too soon. You negotiated before understanding. You confessed weakness instead of commanding direction. You reacted where you should have remained still. Let that pain instruct you. John D. Rockefeller, one of the greatest empire builders the world has known, was known not for loud speeches, but for measured silence. When competitors panicked, he paused. When rumors swirled, he waited. He once said, "The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee." But more powerful than that, he practiced discipline of the tongue. Andrew Carnegie, too, listened more than he spoke. In his mastermind gatherings, he often remained quiet for long stretches, only speaking when his mind had formed something that moved strategy forward. That silence was not passivity. It was the sharpening of internal law. I tell you now, if you want dominion over results, you must first master restraint. The man who cannot control his tongue cannot build anything that lasts. For all things are spoken into form. Your health, your relationships, your finances, your purpose. The undisciplined tongue is a destroyer of nations and dreams. You must build a law over your mouth, a code. Say nothing reactive. Say nothing unmeasured. Say nothing that weakens your future, even in jest. Speak with the weight of one who knows that words are weapons. You can use them to destroy or you can use them to govern. Each morning say aloud, "I speak only when it builds." My words are weapons of order. I govern my tongue. Therefore I command my outcomes. Let this become the commandment of your new self. When you're tempted to speak for validation, pause. When someone wrongs you and you wish to lash out, pause. When you feel uncertain and wish to fill the air with sound, pause. The man who can wait has more power than the man who reacts. Let me show you something else. Words not only govern results, they reveal who you believe you are. When you say, "I can't," or "I hope," or "I wish," you expose your lack of dominion. But when you say, "I will," "I decide," "I commit," you plant the seed of kingship. This is why Solomon's words lasted beyond his lifetime. They were not mere sentences. They were eternal laws clothed in parables. He said, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." He taught that words must be guided by wisdom, not emotion. Make your home a training ground. Begin speaking with order in small things. Bless your food. Give command to your mornings. Correct your posture with your words. Build your outer world by first mastering the inner rhythm of your tongue. If you are to build an empire, you must build first with silence. Solomon's empire did not begin with a speech. It began with a prayer for wisdom and a silent understanding of law. You too must create space for silence. Daily, sit alone, ask nothing, say nothing, listen. There, the seed of power will begin to grow. It is in silence that you understand who you are. It is in restraint that you begin to sense the movements of the higher law. Men who cannot be still are slaves to the world's chaos. But men who master stillness bend the world to their law. Let this part of your transformation be clear. Power does not belong to the loudest, it belongs to the wisest. And wisdom does not cry out in the streets, it whispers in the chamber of the soul. Learn to hear it, learn to speak it, learn to wait until it rises within. Affirm again now, with reverence, I speak only what builds. I rule my world through restraint. My words do not perform, they command. Say it again until you feel the power return to your soul. Your next battle will not be won by strategy. It will be won by discipline of the tongue. Do not interrupt the wisdom being formed in you by chasing the approval of men. Speak only when the voice within confirms the words are worthy of your future. Let us proceed now to the next part, where we will multiply what you are learning, not alone, but with the right men. For wisdom shared lawfully becomes power multiplied. Part 5. Wisdom multiplies when shared, but only with the prepared. You must understand this next law if you would rise to any station of power. Wisdom does not multiply in noise. It multiplies in order. It multiplies in circles of men who honor law, seek growth, and walk in reverence. Solomon did not share his proverbs with fools. He wrote them for sons, for seekers, for those who feared God and honored discipline. Look around you. Who surrounds your mind? Who hears your ambitions? Who shapes your thinking without speaking a word? If your circle mocks principle, jokes about discipline, fears silence, or chases entertainment, then you are not in a mastermind. You are in a pit. Charles Schwab did not ascend because of charisma or genius. He was surrounded by a circle of principle. He served under Carnegie, one of the most law-abiding minds of his age. Schwab absorbed the order of Carnegie's methods, the vision of his planning, the confidence of his word. He rose because he multiplied wisdom through association. There is no self-made man. There are only self-aligned men who surround themselves with others aligned to the same law. If you want to rise, you must first purge the foolish. You must then assemble the wise. You must build your circle with intention. One man who honors law is worth more than 100 who entertain themselves with mediocrity. Ask yourself now, who are your 5? Name them. Would you entrust your fortune to their hands? Would you share your prayers with them? Would you bring your definite chief aim to their counsel? If not, you already know what must be done. Delay no longer. You cannot become Solomon in the company of clowns. Build a law for your counsel. 1 meeting per week, 1 hour of silence, 1 principle studied, 1 action agreed upon. This is not a social gathering. This is a sacred meeting of minds. Let each man speak only what strengthens. Let each man be held to his word. Let the standard be high, or let him leave. Solomon wrote, "Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." This is not poetry. This is spiritual metallurgy. When minds meet in truth, the friction births strength. But if iron strikes wood, both are damaged. Do not bring wisdom to a fool. Do not waste principle on the passive. Understand now, your future does not depend on your effort alone. It depends on your environment of thought. You rise not merely by what you do, but by what those around you allow you to become. If your surroundings weaken your discipline, you will decay no matter how noble your desire. The law is exact. You either build by law or you erode by influence. Ford had Edison, I had Carnegie, Solomon had his scribes, even Jesus had 12 men to whom he revealed deeper truths. This is not tradition, it is structure, and without structure no wisdom multiplies. You may have knowledge, but unless it is shared with the prepared, it dies with you. Do not seek crowds, seek counsels. Do not crave followers, crave builders. Gather those who seek not applause but application. Your life must become a furnace of principle. Only those who can endure its heat are meant to be near. Repeat this law within yourself. I build a circle of wise men. Power multiplies where wisdom is honored. Say it again. Write it. Speak it to your reflection each morning. This is not a motto. It is a binding agreement between your destiny and your discipline. This is why you must take record. Begin today. Write the names of the men you must release. Write the qualities of the men you must seek. Speak your intention aloud. The universe obeys clarity, not confusion. And now let me warn you. The wrong circle will cost you years. The wrong influence will rob you of your fire. Some men destroy not with fists, but with passivity. Some weaken your aim simply by existing near it without reverence. They drain you with their comfort. They anchor you with their fears. Cut them now. Choose instead those who sharpen your thought, those who ask strong questions, those who move in silence, those who carry their own weight. When 5 men think by law, they build an empire no storm can touch. This part of your life cannot be optional. Build the circle, protect the standard, multiply the wisdom. It is the way of Solomon. It is the way of Schwab. It is the only way a king is ever truly made. Are you ready to continue? In the next part, I will show you why all riches are lost without purpose, how wealth, without a vision to anchor it, will slip through your fingers like dust. Let us now move to part 6. Part 6, Riches without purpose is poverty in disguise. Solomon once warned of a man who works, who toils, who gathers wealth by day and night, only to leave it to another, one who did not earn it, one who does not understand its value. Why? Because the first man had no vision behind his labor. He was rich in gold, but bankrupt in aim. He built with sweat, but not with spirit. He gained the world and lost the reason. This, my friend, is the silent plague of our time. Men chase coins, but forget cause. They build enterprises without a reason deeper than appetite. And though they count money, they cannot measure meaning. Their wealth becomes a curse. Their labor becomes bondage. Because they forgot what Solomon knew, purpose precedes profit. If your riches are not tied to a clear and definite aim, you will either lose them, misuse them, or they will rule you. And when riches rule a man, he becomes a servant in fine garments. You may impress others, but you will remain a stranger to yourself. You may feed your vanity, but you will starve your soul. Henry Ford did not merely build automobiles, he built mobility. He envisioned a world where the common man moved with dignity. His aim was not merely money, it was transformation. That aim directed every factory, every system, every invention, because he saw beyond the coin to the crown it could serve. You must now ask yourself, what is the purpose behind your pursuit? Why do you want riches? To escape pain, to prove something to others, to silence your doubt. None of these are worthy reasons. None of these will hold under pressure, and none of these will attract lasting wealth. Your purpose must be anchored in law, in contribution, in principle. You must want riches not only to live well, but to build well, not to consume, but to construct, not to hide, but to expand. This is what Solomon asked for when he prayed, not for wealth, but for wisdom to govern well. And because his purpose was righteous, riches chased him. Write your purpose now, not tomorrow. Now your mind will not obey aim that remains unspoken. Write your definite chief aim in a sentence that cuts like steel. Let it be so clear, so rooted in truth, that your subconscious cannot ignore it. Then go further. Tie every financial goal you have to this purpose. Do not just want a business that lifts others. Do not just want land that becomes sanctuary. Do not just want money that multiplies the law you believe in. Understand, money is not evil, but money without direction becomes a weapon against the man who holds it. Purpose is the hand that steadies the sword. Without it, you will bleed by your own ambition. And let me speak boldly now. If you are unwilling to write your purpose, to speak it aloud, to repeat it daily, then you do not deserve the riches you claim to want. For riches are servants of the committed, not of the curious. Repeat after me. I do not gather wealth without direction. Purpose is the foundation of my fortune. Let that line be the wall that no lie may pass. Let that law be the compass that no distraction can shake. Each morning, read your aim. Each evening, review your action. Ask, did I move in alignment? Did I advance my purpose? If not, the day is lost, no matter how much you earned. Build rituals around your aim. Let your habits reflect it. Let your speech honor it. Let your circle strengthen it. For the man who lives without aim lives without command. And the man who moves without command becomes the laborer of another man's vision. Solomon taught that to work without purpose is to sow into the wind. You may be busy, but you are not building. You may feel movement, but you will reap dust. Without a purpose, your energy is stolen by every passing desire. With a purpose, every act becomes a brick laid upon destiny. If today you feel lost, confused, scattered, it is not because you lack strength. It is because you lack aim. Aim clarifies. Aim orders. Aim turns fire into light. Do not ask for more motivation. Ask for more alignment. Let me remind you, wealth is not your problem. Direction is. Strategy is not your enemy. Vagueness is. There are millions of men who work hard and still feel hollow because they never answered one sacred question. Why must I build? If your answer does not ignite your spine, it is not yet true. This is the law. Only the man with purpose can carry the weight of power. Riches do not destroy the worthy. They reveal the unprepared. Without aim, gold will rot you. With aim, it will elevate you. So speak it again. I do not gather wealth without direction. Purpose is the foundation of my fortune. Say it until every cell in your body obeys it. Say it until every act you take flows from it. Say it until your entire life becomes a reflection of that inner law. And now, let us continue. In the next part, you will discover how wisdom turns every loss into instruction. How even your enemies and failures can become teachers, if you think as Solomon thought. Let us move forward. Part 7. Wisdom turns enemies into teachers, and failure into instruction. If you desire to rise like Solomon, you must not only seek wisdom when life is peaceful, you must mine wisdom from pain, from trial, from the sting of error. The man who learns only when praised remains a child, but the man who studies his setbacks becomes a master. This is the law of refinement. Every failure is a message sent to forge your mind. Solomon was not great because he avoided confrontation. He was great because he judged wisely in it. He did not turn from the uncomfortable. He walked into it with discernment. And from this, his name endured. The fool runs from correction. The wise man gathers it as treasure. You must now decide what your failures will mean. Will they become tombstones or blueprints? Will you bury your ambition beneath them or build your next strategy on their message? Most men hide from defeat, but you must become the man who hunts it down and wrings its wisdom dry. Let me tell you about Abraham Lincoln. He failed in business. He lost elections. He suffered depression. He was mocked, opposed, misunderstood. But he recorded his setbacks, studied them, and learned faster than his losses could destroy him. He was not merely resilient, he was intelligent in defeat. He chose wisdom over bitterness. The principle is this: a man who learns faster than he loses cannot be stopped. Let the world swing against you. Let others lie, betray, mock. Let delays fall heavy. But if you transmute each blow into understanding, you will rise with more power than any man who has never struggled. How do you transmute failure into fuel? First, you must record. Keep a book of errors. Write what happened, how it happened, and what thought, belief, or habit made room for it. This is not weakness. This is warfare. You must become the general of your mind, and generals keep records. Second, extract the law. Behind every failure is a broken principle. Ask, what law did I violate? Did I ignore discipline? Did I trust the wrong counsel? Did I speak without aim? Did I drift from my purpose? Find the thread. Cut it from your thinking. Replace it with command. Third, rewrite your behavior immediately. You do not heal by understanding alone. You heal by corrective action. Speak your new command aloud. Link it to your aim. Let each setback become a stone beneath your staircase. There is no shame in falling, only in failing to use the fall. And finally, review weekly. Wisdom must not be remembered. It must be rehearsed. Every 7 days, open your book. Read your lessons. Remind yourself of the laws you've written. Discipline comes not from pain, but from organized response to pain. Say this now and believe it. Failure feeds my wisdom. No enemy can stop a man who learns faster than he loses. These are not soft words. These are the weapons of inner kingship. These are the words Solomon would speak before judgment. These are the words Lincoln lived by when he walked alone. Understand, your enemy is not the man who opposes you. Your enemy is the part of you that still refuses to learn. You are not weak because you struggle. You are weak because you repeat without correction. That ends now. Do not seek revenge. Seek refinement. Do not waste time proving others wrong. Prove your new command right. When a man truly learns from loss, he becomes dangerous. He moves without apology. He speaks without repetition. He acts without hesitation. Even those who hate you become your teachers. Even those who betrayed you become your mirrors. For the wise man says, "You showed me where I was blind, and for that I am now armed." This is not poetic. This is practical power. You must now practice it. Begin today. Write your most recent loss. Write the law you ignored. Write the new law you now live by. Speak it aloud. Repeat it in the morning. Measure your actions against it each night. This is how Solomon thought. This is how Lincoln ruled. This is how you rise. There is no such thing as wasted pain in the life of a wise man. Every scar becomes scripture. Every enemy becomes a sermon. Every delay becomes design. But only if you choose it to be so. Let your mind now agree. Failure feeds my wisdom. I cannot be defeated, only educated. We are now prepared to move to the next law, the next layer of inner kingdom. In the following part, I will show you why discipline without law is fragile, and how every empire, whether of the mind or the marketplace, rises or falls based on its standard. Prepare to rebuild your internal kingdom. Part 8, a kingdom without discipline. Collapses. A mind without law wanders. Solomon's empire was not built on chaos. It was not held together by charisma or force. It was sustained by order, by discipline under divine law. His court did not rule by passion. It ruled by structure. His name did not endure because he was clever. It endured because his life followed an unwavering standard. Understand this principle. Power without law crumbles. Talent without structure rots. Passion without principle betrays itself. Many men have vision. Few build systems to protect that vision. Many begin in fire. Few endure in rhythm. The true king is not he who inspires a crowd. It is he who masters his days. The same is true for your life. Your home is your kingdom. Your calendar is your court. Your morning is your throne. And if you do not govern them, they will betray you. The walls of a kingdom are not built once, they are maintained daily, and every habit is either a brick or a crack. Let me ask you, do you have laws for yourself, or do you move based on how you feel? Do you rise with intention, or delay because the mood isn't right? Do you write your vision daily, or forget it in the fog of your distractions? The man who waits for discipline will never have it. The man who writes his law and lives by it becomes unstoppable. Solomon upheld spiritual and civil order. He judged with clarity. He preserved peace with law. And the same truth applies to you. Without personal discipline, your wealth will fade. Without structure, your creativity will scatter. Without order, your power will leak from every corner of your life. Now observe how Thomas Edison lived. He did not merely experiment, he scheduled invention. His breakthroughs came not in chaos, but in routine. He showed up to his laboratory daily. He slept little but consistently. His assistants worked in shifts. Why? Because he understood. Miracles are born from method. Law in action creates power in output. Andrew Carnegie? He didn't just hire workers, he designed systems. He trained minds. He scaled order. His steel empire wasn't sustained by effort. It was sustained by laws that multiplied value without burning men out. He once said to put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. That is not recklessness. That is law and focus. What does this mean for you? It means that you must stop improvising your greatness. You must stop hoping that motivation will strike. You must build law, daily, sacred, unbreakable law that governs how you speak, how you rise, how you work, how you rest, and how you respond to resistance. Let me give you instruction now. Write these laws down. First, law of rising. What time shall the king wake? This is not up for debate. The throne waits. The world responds to the man who owns the morning. Second, law of direction. Before the sun touches your skin, speak your definite chief aim aloud. Speak it with power. You are not waiting for clarity. You are commanding it. You are not hoping for direction. You are reminding yourself of the path you already chose. Third, law of work. Set your output standard, not effort, execution. How many pages, how many calls, how many solved problems? This is not about busyness. This is about dominion. If you do not measure, you cannot command. Fourth, law of thought. Do not permit every thought to enter your gates. Guard your attention. If the thought breeds fear, starve it. If it breeds confusion, question it. If it contradicts your purpose, replace it. You are not your thoughts. You are the ruler of your thoughts. Fifth, law of reflection. At day's end, sit in silence. Audit your law. Where did you obey? Where did you drift? Write it. Learn from it. Speak new instruction for tomorrow. A king does not sleep without knowing how he governed. Repeat this now. Order builds power. I uphold inner law before I expand outer dominion. Say it again, slowly. Let it sink into the walls of your mind. You are the architect. You are the judge. You are the executor of inner law. Now understand the consequence of ignoring this. A man with no law becomes a servant to every impulse. His mornings are wasted. His power leaks through indecision. His thoughts become fog. His results depend on luck. And no matter how talented he is, he cannot be trusted with dominion, because no kingdom can stand without law. Solomon knew this. He enforced it. And so must you. Not once. Daily. Discipline is not a feeling, it is a structure. It is a temple built from repeated acts of obedience to a written standard. If your life feels out of control, it is not your circumstances. It is your lack of law. You must now become sacred about your structure. Defend it. Let no man mock it. Let no fatigue break it. If it is written, it must be lived. If it is spoken, it must be executed. For the mind with law is a fortress, and the world bows to the man who governs himself with precision. Let this be your covenant. I will no longer drift. I will no longer rely on emotion. I write my law, I live my law, I rise by law, and nothing shall shake the man who stands upon it. Now that your foundation is set, you are ready for the highest truth Solomon ever spoke, the one law that anchors all others, the final gate to wisdom and riches, reverence for the source. In the next part, I will reveal the most sacred law Solomon gave, not as a preacher, not as a mystic, but as a builder of empires, and it is this: fear God and obey his commandments. What this means and how it will define your future will be made plain. Part 9, Solomon's greatest wisdom, was this: fear God and obey the law. There are many men who command wealth, many who rule with might, many who gather possessions, build cities, lead industries. But among them, few last, fewer leave legacy, and almost none walk in peace. Why? Because they possess riches but lack reverence. They obey the law of effort, but ignore the higher law of origin, the law of God. Solomon was not only a king of wealth, he was a king of order, a king of judgment, a king of peace. And yet when he penned the conclusion to his life, when he wrote the final lesson from a mountain of gold, servants, wisdom, and power, he did not say, get rich. He did not say, build fast. He said, fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. This is the final gate, the highest law. The secret behind every enduring empire, alignment with divine order, not religious performance, not ritual, not image, but internal reverence, the kind that says, I am not the source, I am the steward. My life is not mine to waste. It is mine to govern in harmony with the mind that created me. Hear me now. Men fall not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked reverence. Nations fall not because they lacked armies, but because they abandoned divine law. Solomon saw this. He watched kingdoms crumble after pride rejected the one who gave power. He knew no wealth can preserve a man who no longer honors the source of that wealth. You are not being asked to join a church. You are not being told to adopt empty rituals. What I teach you now is higher than denomination. It is the law that governs the seed, the harvest, the heartbeat, the thought, the consequence. Divine law is not man-made. It is the origin of all true law. Carnegie understood this, though he never called himself religious. He honored the law of cause and effect. He studied the law of compensation. He gave away more than he kept. Why? Because he knew you must align with the higher order if you expect your work to last beyond your breath. Ford, too, did not prey on platforms, but he obeyed the law of vision, the law of usefulness, the law of organized service. These are not inventions of industry. They are echoes of the law Solomon lived by. They are spiritual truths made physical through consistent application. Let us now go deeper into what it means to fear God. It does not mean terror. It does not mean superstition. It means awe. It means respect. It means that you place divine law above your impulses, that you bend your ego to a greater order, that you understand you do not create truth, you align with it. To fear God means that you no longer think you are the author of consequence. You understand there is a justice higher than the courts, a memory greater than your mind, a reward more eternal than money. You live not to please men, but to walk rightly before the divine judge who sees your thought before your action. This reverence does not make you weak. It makes you dangerous, because the man who fears God cannot be bribed. He cannot be broken by applause. He cannot be bought by offers of the world. His standard is higher. His conscience is sharper. His results are more permanent. He does not fall because he does not bend. And to keep his commandments means you obey the laws that govern power. You do not lie for gain. You do not steal time from your purpose. You do not murder your potential by serving lust, envy, or pride. You do not bear false witness against yourself with lazy thinking. You honor your calling, your work, your family, your future. This is not moralism, it is strategy, Solomon understood. Divine obedience is the most powerful principle on earth. It makes the poor man rise and the mighty man fall. It builds peace that outlasts gold. It turns ordinary men into kings because it makes their authority unshakable. Say these words aloud with me. I rise by obedience to divine law. True wisdom begins with reverence. Again, slowly. I rise by obedience to divine law. True wisdom begins with reverence. This is not an affirmation of ego. It is the declaration of one who chooses to be governed by the highest standard in existence. Now I will ask you, what law do you serve? Are your days shaped by purpose or convenience? Do you speak what is right or what is popular? Do you honor your conscience or dull it with distraction? The man who walks with divine law walks alone at first, but soon the world follows him because his fruit is undeniable. Look at the decay of the world around you. Men mock wisdom. They elevate sensation. They destroy family, destroy identity, destroy order, and then cry for peace. But peace is the product of law honored. Without reverence, there is only noise. Without obedience, there is only collapse. Solomon ruled over Israel, yes, but more importantly, he ruled over himself. His wealth was great, but his insight was greater. And his insight was born not of intellect, but of fear of God. That is the source, that is the law, and it is your key to every power you seek. If you remember nothing else from this entire speech, remember this. The man who aligns with divine order cannot be stopped. Others may rise quicker, others may seem louder, but they fade. You endure, because you are not building with dust. You are building with eternal material. Now write this into your journal. Engrave it on your wall. Speak it every morning before you begin. I live by eternal law. I am governed by the truth that does not change. I obey the wisdom of the source, and therefore I build what cannot be broken. You are now ready for the final part, the conclusion, the bringing together every insight, every command that Solomon lived by. In the final words, I will teach you how to make this wisdom your identity, not just your knowledge. Conclusion. Solomon's power is not buried in the past. It is waiting in you. You have heard the law. You have walked with kings. You have seen what made Solomon great. Not his palace, not his treasury, not his robes, but his mind aligned with divine order. And now, it is your turn. For what good is truth unless it becomes flesh in your habits? What power is wisdom if it remains theory and not transformation? This world does not belong to the loud. It does not belong to the impulsive. It does not belong to the clever schemer. It belongs to the man who rules himself and governs that rule by unalterable law. The man who honors understanding before opinion. The man who speaks less and builds more. The man who seeks first the invisible order and then commands the visible world. Solomon's secret is not locked in Scripture. It is coded into law. And every man, regardless of his beginning, may partake in it. For divine law is no respecter of persons. It does not care for your name, your background, your feelings, your titles. It responds only to obedience. And you now hold the principles. Repeat these truths aloud, not as a performance, but as instruction to your mind, as seal upon your spirit. I live by the wisdom of kings. I obey law and command wealth. The kingdom I build begins within. Now let us review what has been given. You have been taught that understanding is greater than riches, that thoughts must be governed before cities, that silence can be mightier than armies, that wisdom shared with the prepared multiplies power, that riches without purpose dissolve, that failure is instruction, that discipline without inner law collapses, that reverence is the root of all true power. These are not isolated lessons. They are one system of law. They are not ancient dust. They are eternal structure. And that structure waits in you. Yes, you. No matter how lost, how poor, how inconsistent, how doubting you have been, today you begin again not as a beggar for riches, but as a builder of law. And if you ask, where do I begin? I will answer with this. You begin by writing your definite chief aim, your purpose, your throne, your vision. And then you set law around it. Law of waking, law of thought, law of speech, law of decision, law of action. These become your guards. These become your walls. These become your peace. Solomon did not wander into greatness. He built it by law. And now you must too. You must build your aim with understanding. Fortify your thoughts with clarity. Guard your words with intention. Multiply your influence with discipline. Obey the source with reverence, and then stand. Do not return to the weak self who chased results without structure, who sought applause instead of principle, who drifted because he did not choose law. That man is dead. He served his purpose to show you who you are not. Now you rise. Say it again with breath and boldness. I live by the wisdom of kings. I obey law and command wealth. The kingdom I build begins within. The silence that follows is not emptiness. It is space for instruction. A king listens more than he speaks. And your next command is not to listen more speeches. It is to write your law, speak it daily, act it hourly, and govern it until the world has no choice but to reflect your inner dominion. You do not need more opinions. You need law. You do not need more motivation. You need understanding. You do not need more approval. You need alignment. These are the treasures Solomon possessed, and they are now yours. Take them, write them, speak them, live them, and walk like a man who is taught by kings. What if I told you that the version of truth you've been handed for centuries was edited, cut apart, and rewritten, not to free your mind, but to chain it? What if the oldest Bible on earth, the Ethiopian Bible, preserved the very teachings of Christ that the world was never meant to see? For 4,000 years, men have twisted divine law into a tool of obedience, not liberation. They took the words of the Master and stripped them of their power, hiding the truth that man was never meant to serve fear, nor bow before institutions, nor crawl in submission to the illusions of authority. The truth that was buried is this: Jesus did not come to create worshipers. He came to awaken creators. His message was not about suffering for heaven, but about mastering heaven within. He did not teach the weak to beg. He taught the strong to command. And that teaching, my friend, was dangerous, because a man who knows his oneness with infinite intelligence cannot be ruled. He cannot be bought or bribed or broken. He does not wait for miracles. He makes them. And that is why the true doctrine had to be hidden, rewritten, and buried beneath centuries of translation and fear. The Ethiopian scriptures predate your Bible. They contain books removed by kings, burned by popes, and erased by scribes. Books that spoke of man's direct communion with the infinite, of his power to think his reality into being, of his mind as the true temple of God. Do you understand what that means? It means the kingdom of heaven was never in the sky. It was in your own thought. For 4,000 years, the world has been ruled not by truth, but by fear. The same fear I wrote about when I said, fear is the tool of a man-made devil. That devil is ignorance clothed in religion, whispering that you are powerless, that salvation is bought through submission. Yet the Master said otherwise. The kingdom of God is within you. Think of it. Every empire, every priesthood, every institution that ever profited from your fear has built its throne upon the denial of that single law, that man and his maker are not separate, that the mind of man is a spark of the infinite, that every thought of faith is a command to the universe itself. And I tell you now, if you truly understood what those lost scriptures contained, you would never again ask another man for permission to prosper. You would never again kneel before doubt. You would never again beg the world to give you what heaven already placed within your grasp. The Ethiopian Bible does not flatter the powerful. It exalts the individual. It speaks of divine law not as a mystery to be obeyed, but as a science to be practiced. It teaches that faith is not submission. It is control. That prayer is not pleading. It is mental direction. That sin is not moral failure. It is ignorance of one's own creative power. Now, do you see why the rulers feared it? A free man cannot be taxed by fear. A thinker cannot be enslaved by lies. A believer who knows his mind is the workshop of the infinite cannot be ruled by the threats of hell or the promise of heaven. He commands both. You have lived long enough in a world that told you to be humble, to be small, to wait for permission. You were taught to believe that holiness meant poverty, that devotion meant obedience, that suffering was sacred. But the truth is this: to think, to act, to decide, to create, these are the true acts of worship. The Ethiopian Bible preserves the message that every man carries within him the image of the Creator, and that to think in harmony with that image is to perform miracles. It is the same law I have taught for decades. that what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But the world would rather you forget. The world would rather you remain a drifter, bound by fear, confusion, and doubt, instead of standing upright in your divine inheritance. For if you remembered, if you truly awakened to this truth, their kingdoms would crumble overnight. Understand this clearly. Jesus did not teach followers. He built thinkers. He taught the science of faith, how to plant a thought, water it with belief, and watch it become flesh. He showed man that the word spoken with conviction is the law of life, that the man who controls his mind controls his destiny. The Ethiopian scriptures declare it plainly, that man is not punished for his sins, but by them, that heaven and hell are not places, but states of mind, that the kingdom is not found by searching the sky, but by mastering one's own thought. And these truths were too powerful to survive unguarded. So the world was given a half-truth, a gospel of fear instead of faith, a creed of submission instead of creation. The fire of the mind was buried beneath rituals, politics, and dogma until now. But the truth cannot die. It returns in every age, disguised as a whisper in the hearts of those who dare to think. Listen closely. Every man who ever achieved greatness, Ford, Edison, Carnegie, obeyed the same law the Ethiopian Bible concealed, that the thought of faith transforms circumstance. That man, united with his purpose, becomes a channel of the divine. And the moment he decides, heaven moves. You are about to hear what the world has feared for 4,000 years, that faith is not blind belief, but deliberate creation, that God does not choose favorites, but obeys law, that your destiny is not written in the stars, but in the words you speak daily to yourself. This speech is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who are ready to reclaim what has been stolen from them, their power, their faith, their divine birthright. I will not give you religion. I will give you law, the law that Jesus practiced, that the sages preserved, that the conquerors erased, and that the Ethiopian Bible still proclaims. The kingdom of God is within you, and thought is its throne. So listen well, for these words may shake the foundation of everything you were taught to believe. They may offend the timid, they may enrage the blind, but they will set the thinker free. For the next few moments, put aside everything you think you know about faith, religion, and salvation. The truth has slept long enough. It is time to wake it within you. There is a kingdom not made by hands. It cannot be found in the sky, nor buried in the earth. It is not hidden in temples, nor guarded by priests. It lives within the walls of thought itself. It is the kingdom of heaven, and it begins in the mind of man. Heaven and hell are not places to which men travel after death. They are conditions of consciousness in which men dwell while alive. Heaven is mental harmony. Hell is mental confusion. Heaven is faith organized into purpose. Hell is fear turned inward until it poisons the soul. The Ethiopian scriptures preserved this truth long before it was spoken in parable. They declared that the mind is the workshop of God. And centuries later, I too came upon that same law in my confrontation with the devil, the realization that every joy or torment of man is born from his own thought. In that timeless dialogue, the adversary confessed his dwelling place. He said, I live in the minds of men who fear me. Thus I learned that the devil is not a red figure with horns, but the negative use of imagination. The devil is the picture one paints of failure, of sickness, of loss, and then believes it into form. The devil is man's own misuse of thought, and the only exorcism needed is the deliberate act of thinking rightly. The true battlefield of good and evil is not in the world of men. It is in the inner chamber of the human mind. Every war that has ever been fought was first fought in thought. Every prison built by tyrants was first built within the minds of those who believed themselves powerless. And every victory ever won was first won by one who dared to govern his own thinking. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he was not speaking of clouds or golden streets. He was describing a state of consciousness, a mind so disciplined, so pure in purpose, that no fear, doubt, or indecision could disturb its peace. The Ethiopian writings preserve the same code, declaring that the spirit of man is the throne of God. I came to understand that this throne is the calm, centered mind that refuses to be ruled by circumstance. There is no external devil. There is only ungoverned imagination, thought left to wander without definite aim. The devil feeds on vagueness, on the gray mist of indecision. He thrives where men drift between belief and fear, between desire and doubt. When the mind is disciplined, when thought is definite, the devil starves. The greatest tragedy of mankind is not that men die, but that they live without governing their own minds. For centuries, organized fear has replaced spiritual law. Men were taught to bow rather than to think. They were told that salvation comes through obedience to dogma, not through mastery of self. Thus they traded the power to create for the comfort of servitude. Every age has seen the same conspiracy of ignorance, a hidden league of fear that keeps men bound to limitation. The priests of fear have many names. Some wear robes, others wear crowns, and many hold offices of respectability. They whisper the same command: do not think for yourself. And thus the great power given to man, the power to think his destiny into form, has been buried beneath centuries of superstition. I have seen how this slavery of the mind begins. First, man doubts his own thought. Then he seeks authority outside himself. At last, he becomes a beggar at the gates of heaven, pleading for what he has the power to create. This is the secret tragedy of human history. The law was never lost, only forgotten, and it has been written again and again in every sacred book. As a man thinketh, so is he. Faith, then, is not blind belief in unseen hands. It is the calm confidence of a mind in order. Faith is thought organized toward a definite end. When thought is definite, it moves the unseen forces of life into motion. When thought is chaotic, it destroys itself. Heaven is the state of a mind directed by faith. Hell is the torment of a mind ruled by fear. Fear is the only devil there ever was. It is the shadow cast by ignorance. It whispers that man is small, that he must bow, that he is at the mercy of fate. Yet fate itself is but the accumulated result of his own thinking. There is no fate for the thinker, only consequence. Consider Henry Ford, that humble mechanic who found the kingdom within. The world laughed at him. They said his vision of a motor car for every man was madness. Yet he held his thought as firmly as a sculptor holds the form in his mind before he carves it from stone. He refused to drift, refused to fear, refused to accept impossibility. And in so doing, he proved that the kingdom of heaven is not reached through prayer alone, but through the definite act of mind united with purpose. Ford found harmony within, and the outer world reshaped itself to match his vision. This same law that lifted Ford from obscurity lies within every man. Heaven is built each morning when thought obeys purpose. Hell is built each night when fear is allowed to reign. No tyrant can imprison a man who governs his thoughts. No poverty can enslave a soul that knows its own power. The gates of heaven open not through death, but through decision. The decision to think constructively, deliberately, and persistently toward one definite aim. The Ethiopian sages declared, Guard thy thought, for it is the seed of thy world. How few obey this. The multitude allows their minds to become gardens overrun with weeds of fear, gossip, and indecision. Then they cry out that life is cruel, that fate has betrayed them, that heaven is far away. But heaven was never lost, it was neglected. The mind left unattended becomes a wilderness of torment. The devil does not need to steal a man's soul. He only needs to distract his thought. He works through worry, through envy, through resentment, through the 1,000 little irritations that weaken mental discipline. Each moment spent in fear or doubt is a brick laid in the walls of hell. Each moment spent in faith and purpose is a stone added to the temple of heaven. The Ethiopian manuscripts speak of a law called Tefersat, the alignment of inner and outer. It teaches that the outer world mirrors the inner order of thought. When man's thought is divided, his world is divided. When his thought is one with purpose, his world obeys him. This is the law of harmony that binds heaven and earth. When I wrote Outwitting the Devil, I did not reveal a new truth. I uncovered the old one. I showed that the devil is thought misused, fear organized into habit, and I showed that heaven is thought rightly used, faith organized into purpose. I saw that Jesus, centuries before, had already taught this law in the simple command, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." The renewal of the mind is the rebirth of heaven. Every man is a builder. Each day he draws blueprints in thought, and each night the unseen hands of law build from those plans. Some construct palaces of peace. Others raise prisons of despair. Each receives according to the pattern he has drawn. In my own life, I have known both states. I have lived in the hell of confusion and the heaven of purpose. There was a time when fear held me in chains, when every plan I formed crumbled because my thought was divided. But when I learned to fix my mind upon one definite purpose and to hold it there, the chains fell away. The same law that had bound me now served me. Heaven and hell had been two conditions of my own mind. Man prays for deliverance from evil, yet he is delivered the moment he learns to think. The mind, like a compass, always points toward harmony when it is not interfered with. But fear, doubt, and indecision pull its needle from the true north of faith. The first act of salvation, therefore, is mental stillness. The command to thought, "Peace, be still." The Ethiopian sages said that the voice of God speaks only in silence. This silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of fear. When the mind is silent, it hears direction. When it is noisy with worry and desire, it hears only confusion. The devil dwells in noise. God speaks in calmness. There is no need to destroy evil. It destroys itself when ignored. There is no need to chase heaven. It appears when the mind becomes orderly. Man's task is not to beg for miracles, but to create them through disciplined imagination. For the universe obeys thought as faithfully as the soil obeys seed. The great secret hidden in both the Ethiopian scrolls and in my dialogue with the devil is this: man is the builder of heaven through the instrument of his mind. When thought is pure, heaven appears. When thought is chaotic, hell arises. The scriptures of every nation have whispered this in different tongues, yet men have chosen fear over understanding. The priests of fear taught that God rewards obedience and punishes inquiry, but truth rewards inquiry and punishes ignorance. The mind was given not to serve fear, but to command it. Every time a man refuses to think for himself, he hands the keys of heaven to the devil of doubt. In the hidden Gospels preserved in Ethiopia, Christ is recorded saying, "The lamp of the body is the mind. If it be clear, thy whole body shall be full of light." Here lies the identical law I revealed. Control the lamp of thought, and all life is illuminated. Let fear darken it, and all things appear distorted. There is no distant heaven waiting beyond the grave. There is the heaven of self-mastery now. There is no fiery hell below the earth. There is the hell of a mind on fire with worry, hate, and envy. Men have waited for angels to descend, but angels are thoughts of faith. They come not from above, but from within. Faith, when rightly understood, is not hope. Hope waits. Faith acts. Faith is not blind. It sees with inner vision. Faith is not sentiment. It is discipline. The man of faith knows that the invisible is the cause of the visible, and he governs his thoughts accordingly. The law is perfect and impartial. Whatever you plant in mind, you will meet and experience. If you sow fear, you will reap defeat. If you sow definiteness, you will reap mastery. The soil of the subconscious never rests. It grows weeds or wheat with equal faithfulness. Therefore, the first duty of man is mental cultivation, to keep his garden clear of the weeds of fear, and to plant daily the seeds of purpose. This is not poetry. It is exact science. Every result in your life is the harvest of some thought previously planted. The Ethiopian master wrote, "He who guards his mind guards his destiny." This is the lost commandment of every faith. Heaven is not attained through ritual, but through rhythm, the steady rhythm of disciplined thinking. When one learns this law, he ceases to fear the devil, for he knows that the devil is only the absence of definiteness. He ceases to fear hell, for he knows that hell is the absence of faith. And he ceases to fear death, for he knows that life eternal is thought aligned with divine law. So let this be your affirmation. My mind is the throne of heaven. No fear may reign within it. Repeat it until you believe it. Speak it until your subconscious accepts it as law. For as you affirm, so shall you become. You are not a victim of fate. You are the architect of destiny. You are not a beggar of heaven, you are its builder. The mind is the workshop of God, and you are his apprentice. To think rightly is to create rightly. To fear is to destroy. Remember this. There is no greater power than the calm, deliberate thought of one who knows his own mind. One such man is stronger than 1,000 who drift. When thought is definite, heaven appears wherever he stands. The Ethiopian sages and I spoke the same truth in different tongues, that the kingdom of God is not a place but a power, not a promise but a principle, not a reward but a realization. The law is simple and it is eternal. As you think, so shall you live. There is an invisible empire that rules men without their consent. It has no army, no throne, and no crown. Its palace is built in the imagination of those who tremble before shadows. This empire is called fear, and it is the oldest form of government in the world. Kings have come and gone, nations have risen and fallen, but fear remains the eternal ruler of those who refuse to think for themselves. When I conversed with the devil, he confessed his only weapon. He said, "I control men through fear." And when I pressed him, asking of what men are afraid, he named 6 ghosts that haunt the earth: the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. These 6 specters are his ministers of state, through which he commands the minds of the weak. Look carefully at them. They are nothing but ideas, phantoms without form. Yet they have governed nations, destroyed empires, and bound men more completely than iron chains. For no prison is as cruel as the one built of a man's own beliefs. The fear of poverty keeps millions in quiet slavery, toiling without purpose, obeying masters they despise, all because they are afraid to think independently. The fear of criticism silences genius before it speaks. It makes men live by the opinions of others, never daring to be different. The fear of ill health fills hospitals with the well and poisons the body through suggestion. The fear of loss of love makes beggars of lovers, trading dignity for approval. The fear of old age steals joy from the young and peace from the old. And the fear of death, the oldest of all lies, keeps men trembling before the inevitable, never realizing that death is but the gateway between states of consciousness. Every one of these fears is a lie whispered to the mind until the mind believes it. The devil's greatest triumph is not in destruction, but in deception. He persuades man that he is powerless. He convinces him that life is ruled by chance, that destiny is a cruel master, and that he must accept what comes. Once a man accepts that lie, the devil needs no chains. The man will guard his own prison. The Ethiopian scriptures speak of this tyranny. They tell of an age when priests and kings conspired to control the minds of the people through fear. They discovered that a frightened man will bow before any authority that promises safety. So they filled the world with forbidden laws, invisible curses, and unseen punishments. They told men that to question was sin, that to think was rebellion, and that to seek power was pride. And thus they turned the gift of reason into a cause of guilt. The rulers of that time knew what I later discovered, that the man who thinks for himself cannot be ruled by another. To enslave him, it is enough to teach him to doubt his own thought. Once he is afraid of being wrong, he will seek the approval of others for every act. And when he does this, he ceases to live by truth and begins to live by permission. The devil's government has no parliament. It rules through suggestion. Its laws are written in the subconscious of the masses. Every whisper of doubt, every superstition, every fear of what they might say is a tax upon the soul. Men have built cathedrals of fear, decorated them with holy names, and worshiped there for centuries. Jesus came to overthrow that empire. His command was simple: be not afraid. He said it again and again, for he knew that fear was the only real enemy of man. He healed the sick not by miracle, but by restoring their faith. He lifted the poor not by charity, but by awakening their belief in the kingdom within. And he defied the priests and rulers who traded in terror, saying that truth shall make men free. Yet the world crucified him, not because he was wrong, but because he was dangerous. He threatened the commerce of fear. He exposed the hidden market in which souls were sold to superstition. For when a man loses fear, no tyrant can profit from him. The Ethiopian text preserved his true message, that salvation is freedom from fear through understanding. They spoke of a mind that, when illumined by faith, becomes untouchable. He who dwells in the light, they wrote, walks unharmed through the valley of the shadow. It was this same law I uncovered when I made the devil admit that he could control no mind that had a definite purpose. Purpose is the armor of the soul. Decision is its sword. A man who knows what he wants cannot be ruled by fear, for fear feeds only on hesitation. Every time you decide, you strike a blow at the empire of the devil. Every time you postpone, you pay him tribute. How subtle this tyranny has become. It hides behind respectability, behind custom, behind education. The child is taught early to be afraid, afraid to fail, afraid to offend, afraid to stand alone. He learns to measure himself by others, to conform, to obey. And so the creative fire within him is smothered before it burns its brightest. By the time he is grown, his imagination, that divine faculty through which man communes with infinite intelligence, has been shackled by caution and conditioned by fear. This, too, is the devil's masterpiece. He has made fear appear as wisdom, and faith appear as folly. He whispers to the ambitious, "Be careful." He tells the dreamer, "It cannot be done." He tells the poor, "You were not born to be rich." He tells the sick, "This is your fate." And men, believing these lies, surrender the scepter of their thought. The result is a world where the brave are few and the cautious are many. A world where the majority drift in quiet despair, waiting for a miracle that will never come, because miracles are not granted to those who fear to act. Fear is not sin, yet it is the soil from which all sin grows. It is ignorance in disguise, ignorance of the law of mind. For once a man understands that thought creates form, that faith governs energy, and that decision directs destiny, he cannot fear. To fear is to forget the law. To remember the law is to destroy fear. I have seen the power of this understanding in my own life. There was a time when I too was enslaved by the 6 ghosts. I feared poverty. I feared criticism. I feared the opinions of others. My days were filled with hesitation and my nights with worry. I prayed for courage, yet my prayers were empty because they were offered in doubt. One night when despair had nearly conquered me, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What if fear is nothing but a state of mind? If it was a state of mind, then it could be changed. If it was created by thought, then thought could uncreate it. I decided to test this. I began to act as though I had no fear, to speak with confidence, to plan boldly, to believe in my purpose even when my reason protested. At first, the old ghosts returned, whispering their doubts, but each time I refused to listen, they grew weaker. One by one they vanished, until only faith remained. And with that faith came the first real freedom I had ever known. The Ethiopian teachers call this the second birth. It is not the birth of the body, but the birth of dominion, when a man learns that fear has no substance except what he gives it. From that day, I understood that the devil can only rule by consent, and that consent is withdrawn the moment one thinks independently. Look again at the 6 fears, and you will see how they form the pillars of the devil's kingdom. The fear of poverty makes slaves of workers and cowards of thinkers. The fear of criticism makes nations march to ruin, each afraid to contradict the loudest voice. The fear of ill health creates sickness through imagination, for the body obeys belief as faithfully as the soil obeys seed. The fear of loss of love breeds jealousy and possession, destroying the very thing it seeks to preserve. The fear of old age steals the strength of the young before their time, as they worship youth and despise wisdom. And the fear of death makes life itself a long rehearsal for dying. All these fears vanish in the presence of understanding. Poverty loses its terror when one learns that riches begin in thought. Criticism becomes harmless when one decides to please only his own conscience. Ill health dissolves when the mind ceases to picture disease. Loss of love cannot wound the one who loves without fear. Old age becomes a crown when seen as harvest, not decay. And death itself becomes an awakening when one realizes that consciousness cannot die. The devil's government is maintained through ignorance, and ignorance is maintained through authority. Those who rule by fear do not fear the strong, they fear the thinker. That is why the first act of every tyranny is to limit education, to ridicule faith, and to exalt dependence. They know that the man who understands his mind cannot be manipulated. Abraham Lincoln understood this law. His courage was not born of absence of danger, but of presence of purpose. When the nation trembled and armies fell, he said simply, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true." In that moment, he demonstrated mastery over fear. He knew that fear is a liar, and that the man who stands by a principle cannot be defeated even by death. His faith in justice was his armor. His decision was his sword. It is not necessary to fight fear directly. It dies of starvation when ignored. The remedy is always the same. Replace it with definite purpose. Every moment spent defining your purpose weakens the devil's hold. Every plan made in faith drives another nail into the coffin of doubt. Fear flees before decision as darkness flees before dawn. The Ethiopian scrolls speak of a divine formula. Knowledge plus faith equals power. This is the antidote to all fear. Knowledge without faith produces cynicism. Faith without knowledge produces superstition. But when knowledge and faith unite, man becomes invincible. The mind that thinks in faith connects with infinite intelligence. It draws ideas from the unseen, strength from the eternal, and courage from the divine. Fear cannot enter such a mind, for it finds no vacancy there. That mind radiates harmony, and all lesser vibrations dissolve in its presence. It is ignorance, not sin, that makes man tremble. To banish fear, therefore, is not an act of rebellion, but of understanding. The man who outwits the devil is simply one who has learned to think. Let this truth burn within you. Fear is not real. It is only the shadow of forgotten faith. The moment you remember who you are, a thinking, creating expression of infinite intelligence, the shadow vanishes. No man can be enslaved who has mastered the law of mind. You are not bound by the world's opinions. You are not limited by circumstance. You are bound only by the pictures you hold in your imagination. Change the picture, and life changes with it. Remember this affirmation and repeat it daily until it becomes your nature. I think in faith, and fear dissolves before my decision. Speak it when you awaken. Speak it when doubt whispers. Speak it until fear becomes a stranger. For every time you affirm faith, you withdraw power from the devil's invisible government. The empires of fear rise and fall, but the law of mind endures. The one who knows this law walks among men like a beacon in darkness. He fears nothing, for he understands everything. He serves no master, for he governs himself. He does not seek heaven elsewhere, for he carries heaven within. The world may call him strange, reckless, even proud, but history will call him free. Every great failure begins the same way, not with a single wrong act, but with the slow surrender of thought. A man ceases to decide for himself. He lets habit, gossip, and fear decide in his place. He allows the hours to pass without direction, the days to move without purpose, the years to unfold without plan. He drifts. And drifting, more than sin or weakness or ignorance, is the devil's masterpiece. When I demanded of the devil how he gained control over the majority of men, he smiled and said, "By causing them to drift." It is the subtle art of making a mind aimless, of keeping it busy but fruitless, full of movement but without progress. The drifter wakes each morning and repeats yesterday. He moves but does not advance. He wishes but does not decide. He spends his life reacting instead of creating. And when the end comes, he wonders why heaven never answered his prayers. Heaven answered every one of them, but he had no definite address. To drift is to live as a leaf upon the wind, carried wherever the breeze of circumstance blows. A man who drifts cannot think for long on one subject. His attention leaps from fear to desire, from pleasure to worry, from one half-formed plan to another. The devil delights in such minds, for they are open houses. Anyone may enter, and the master is never home. The Ethiopian scriptures called this state the sleep of the soul. They warned that the first duty of man is to stay awake, not merely with eyes open, but with thought vigilant. Keep the lamp burning, they wrote, for the night is long and the thief walks in darkness. The thief is not a demon from without, but distraction from within. Every idle thought, every aimless hour, every postponed decision is another drop of oil wasted from the lamp of purpose. Drifting is not always born of laziness. Often it masquerades as virtue. The man who says, "I am waiting for a sign," the one who says, "I am taking my time," or "I will act when the right moment comes," these are drifters disguised as philosophers. The truth is that the right moment never arrives. It must be created. The universe moves only when a mind commands it. The idle wait for inspiration, the definite create it. Look at the world and you will see the proof. The masses drift. They follow fashions, repeat slogans, obey trends, fear opinion. They eat what others eat, think what others think, and desire what others are told to desire. Their lives are ruled by news, gossip, and envy, yet they wonder why they feel powerless. They have given their thought to the crowd. The crowd has given it to fear, and fear has given it to the devil. Only a few refuse to drift. The thinkers, the dreamers, the men and women who choose their own direction and follow it with persistence. They are God's chosen instruments, for through them the divine plan finds expression. The rest are like instruments lying silent on the floor waiting for someone else to play their music. Andrew Carnegie was such an instrument. He began with nothing but a purpose so definite that it burned through every obstacle. He decided that he would master steel, not hope, not try, not wish. Decided. He fixed his thought like a compass needle and never permitted it to waver. Fortune could not resist such definiteness. From that decision grew an empire and the employment of millions. The devil had no power over him, for the devil cannot tempt a man who is already chosen. Thomas Edison was another. When the world called him a fool for chasing light from a filament, he smiled and worked. He failed hundreds of times, yet never drifted from his vision. His faith was not a prayer for luck, but a discipline of thought. Every hour of his life was organized around his definite purpose. To one who asked how he endured so many failures, he said, "I did not fail. I discovered 1,000 ways that did not work." That is the creed of the non-drifter. George Washington stood in the winter at Valley Forge with no food for his soldiers, no shoes for their feet, and the cause of liberty hanging by a thread. Yet he never surrendered to despair. His mind was anchored in purpose, and that purpose drew strength from the unseen. The armies of the world could not move him because fear could not enter him. He held one idea, freedom, until the universe itself conspired to make it real. The non-drifter is not born. He is made through discipline. He trains his thought as a general trains an army. Every idea must obey command. Every emotion must serve strategy. He allows no idle thinking, for he knows that thought is creative and will reproduce whatever he allows. He guards his mind as a fortress, admitting only those ideas that strengthen faith, courage, and purpose. Drifting, by contrast, is mental anarchy. It is thought without leadership. It is the inner government overthrown by its own citizens. The drifter has no schedule, no plan, no chief aim. He spends more time doubting than doing, more time excusing than executing. He reads but never applies. He prays but never acts. He talks of what he might do, yet the years pass and nothing is done. The devil laughs, for such a man requires no temptation. He tempts himself. In Outwitting the Devil, I asked the adversary what percentage of men he controlled. His answer was terrifying: 98 out of 100. When I pressed for the reason, he said simply, they drift. Only 2 out of 100 think for themselves, decide for themselves, and act from their own convictions. These 2 create civilization. The rest follow. But there is hope, for drifting can be reversed the instant one decides. The cure is as swift as the disease is slow. A single definite purpose, held with faith and acted upon with persistence, will awaken the sleeping soul and cast the devil out of the mind. The transformation is as certain as the sunrise, for the law of non-drifting is a spiritual law. Thought held firmly in one direction gathers power from the infinite. The Ethiopian teachers described this law as the straight path. They taught that to walk it is salvation, to wander from it is death. He who keeps his face toward the light, they said, shall not stumble in darkness. To keep one's face toward the light is to maintain attention upon purpose. It does not mean struggle or tension. It means consistency. The sun does not hurry, yet all life follows its course. So too must a man move in steady rhythm toward his chosen aim. Why then do the masses drift? Because drifting is easy. It demands nothing of courage, nothing of faith, nothing of effort. The mind, like water, always seeks the lowest level. To rise requires energy. To drift requires none. The drifter mistakes comfort for peace, routine for security, and conformity for wisdom. He avoids the pain of decision, not realizing that indecision is the greatest pain of all, the slow torment of a life unused. Organized religion at times has aided this disease. Too often it has told men to wait upon divine will instead of to act as divine instruments. It has encouraged passive obedience instead of active creation. It has taught that to be humble is to be weak, and that ambition is sin. And so, in the name of holiness, men have been taught to drift, waiting for signs, for permission, for rescue. Yet the scriptures themselves declare that man is made in the image of God. And what is that image if not creative power? The Ethiopian gospel warned, God works through the hands of the awake. The asleep pray for deliverance. The awake become it. The asleep seek heaven. The awake build it. The asleep wait for miracles. The awake create them by law. Every man must choose which he will be. To prevent drifting, one must first fix a definite chief aim. This aim must be written, spoken, and visualized until it becomes the central sun around which all thought revolves. It need not be grand, it must be clear. The farmer who decides to raise the best crop in his valley, the craftsman who decides to master his trade, the mother who decides to raise strong children, each is practicing the law of non-drifting. Next comes organized planning. The plan is the bridge between thought and action. Without it, purpose remains a dream. The drifter may say, I wish to succeed, but he has no chart, no map, no timetable. The non-drifter builds his plan as an architect builds a temple, with care, with patience, with exact design. Then he executes it daily, adjusting but never abandoning. The third protection is persistence. The devil flees before persistence as darkness flees before dawn. He can frighten the weak, discourage the impatient, and deceive the careless, but he cannot endure the steady hand of one who keeps moving forward. Every defeat, every delay, every failure becomes fuel for the one who refuses to stop. The fourth is decision. Indecision is the mother of drifting. The habit of quick, definite choice is the mark of every successful soul. The drifter says, I will think about it. The master says, I will do it. One postpones, the other acts. One dreams, the other builds. One drifts into the devil's current, the other steers his own ship. The fifth is self-discipline. The mind, like a wild horse, must be trained before it can serve. The drifter lets every emotion lead him. Anger, envy, appetite, desire. The master reins them all to purpose. He eats, sleeps, speaks, and works by intention, not impulse. He is not a slave to circumstance because he is not a slave to himself. The sixth is faith. Without faith, all else collapses. Faith is the invisible bridge that carries thought across the chasm of doubt into the land of achievement. It is not blind. It sees with inner vision. It is not hope. It is knowledge of law. The man of faith does not drift because he knows that every cause produces its effect, and that no effort, rightly directed, can fail in the end. The seventh is the habit of going the extra mile. This law breaks the chains of mediocrity. The drifter does only what he must. The master does more than is required. He sows beyond his field, and life repays him in kind. Each extra mile traveled strengthens definiteness and weakens the devil's hold. These 7 traits form the armor of the non-drifter: definite purpose, organized plan, persistence, decision, self-discipline, faith, and the habit of going the extra mile. Clothed in these, a man walks untouched through the fires of temptation. Understand this clearly. Drifting is not a habit of the poor alone. It afflicts kings and scholars alike. Any mind left unguarded becomes its victim. The scientist who loses faith in his discovery, the artist who doubts his vision, the leader who listens too long to fear, all drift the moment they let go of their purpose. The Ethiopian texts tell of a parable, a captain sailing without compass. The winds of chance drove him far from his course until he cried out, "The sea is cursed." But the wise said, "The sea is not cursed. You have no helm." So it is with life. The sea of circumstance is neutral. It obeys the rudder of thought. Drifting is not the fault of the sea, but the absence of a helm. In every century, men who refuse to drift have carried civilization forward. They are few, yet the world lives by their faith. The roads we travel, the machines we use, the freedoms we enjoy, all were created by minds that thought definitively and refused to yield. The drifters consume what the thinkers produce. The thinkers are the builders of heaven on earth. The moral cost of indecision is greater than the material one. Each time a man hesitates, he wounds his soul. He feels smaller, weaker, less certain of himself. The habit of indecision breeds self-contempt. Soon he no longer believes in his own power, and once that belief dies, he becomes a puppet of circumstance. The devil then no longer needs to tempt him. He guides him by strings of doubt. The cure again is decision, even small ones. Choose your words, your friends, your hours, your thoughts. Choose what you will study, what you will ignore, what you will believe. Choice is the muscle of the soul. It grows strong through use and weak through neglect. The man who practices non-drifting discovers a strange peace. He no longer fears the future because he is building it. He no longer resents the past because he has learned from it. He no longer envies others because he is too busy creating his own destiny. His mind is clear, his emotions steady, his body vibrant, his conscience quiet. This is salvation, the mind in harmony with itself. The devil cannot enter such a mind. His entire kingdom collapses where definiteness reigns. He feeds on indecision, and when that food is gone, he dies of hunger. Every time a man says, "I will," with conviction, a devil dies somewhere in the invisible. Therefore, let this be your affirmation. I choose my thought each hour. I am not the puppet of circumstance. Speak it until it becomes rhythm. until your every act begins with conscious choice. For each chosen thought is a step on the path of mastery, and each unchosen one a slide into drift. When you wake in the morning, ask, what is my purpose today? When you retire at night, ask, did I hold to it? Let this simple discipline govern your hours, and soon it will govern your destiny. Drifting is the slow death of the soul. Non-drifting is its resurrection. And he who practices it daily will find that he walks not beside angels, but among them, for his own disciplined mind has become one. In the beginning there was not light, nor sound, nor form. There was thought, and from that thought came the command, let there be light. The universe did not argue nor hesitate, it obeyed. This is the first and eternal revelation of law. Thought is dominion. Every blade of grass, every stone, every star above your head is the obedient offspring of mind. The entire cosmos is the visible expression of invisible intelligence. The laws of gravity and motion, the rhythm of the tides, the beating of your own heart, all are governed by thought in motion. To the wise, this is no mystery. It is the sacred formula written in every text of power. As a man thinketh, so is he. The Ethiopian masters called this law the voice that commands. They taught that every man holds within his mind the same creative spark that shaped the heavens. He spoke, and it was, they said. And when man speaks with faith, creation echoes the same words. When I examined the habits of the world's most successful men, I found they shared one faculty in common, the ability to transform thought into form. They did not wait for miracles, they caused them. They did not pray as beggars, they prayed as architects. Every desire they held in the mind with conviction took on life and moved toward fulfillment. This is the law of mental dominion, the power by which man commands his circumstances through the deliberate direction of thought. All that is necessary to invoke it is belief, repetition, and emotion. When desire becomes faith, and faith becomes habit, the world bends to its decree. You have spoken many words in your life, but only a few have carried the power of creation. Words without faith are noise. Words with belief are law. The true prayer is not the repetition of phrases, but the inner declaration backed by emotion. When thought and feeling unite, the universe obeys. Most prayers fail because they are petitions of doubt rather than commands of faith. The majority of men pray as though God were far away, reluctant to listen, requiring persuasion. But God, or infinite intelligence, dwells in the mind of man and acts only through law. To pray correctly is to align your thought with law, not to beg law to change. The sun does not shine because you ask it to. It shines because it must. So too does the universe respond to definite thought. The formula is exact and mathematical. Desire plus belief plus repetition equals creation. Desire is the seed, the first spark of creation. It must be definite, not vague. The man who desires success without defining it will reap confusion, for law responds only to precision. The desire must be so vivid that it burns through hesitation and consumes doubt. Belief is the soil, the mental medium in which the seed grows. Without belief, desire withers. With belief, it flourishes. Belief is formed by repetition of thought. Every idea held in the conscious mind and impressed upon the subconscious through repetition becomes belief. The subconscious then accepts it as truth and acts upon it. Repetition is the sunlight, the energy that brings the seed to life. Every time you repeat a thought with emotion, you strengthen its roots. The subconscious cannot distinguish between truth and falsehood. It accepts what it hears often enough with feeling. This is why propaganda rules the masses, and why affirmation liberates the individual. The one who controls his repetition controls his destiny. I have seen this law operate with perfect precision. Thomas Edison did not invent the phonograph by accident. He held the image of it so vividly in his mind that it compelled reality to take form. He did not hope for discovery. He decided it must be found. He lived with that idea day and night until his hands became the tools of his mind. The machine that finally sang with recorded sound was but the physical shadow of an inner image already complete. So it was with Ford, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and every other creator I have studied. They began with thoughts so definite that no circumstance could alter it. When others doubted, they persisted. When the world said impossible, they said inevitable. They were not men favored by fortune. They were men obedient to law. The same law works for the farmer who pictures a field of grain before it sprouts, for the mother who envisions her child strong and wise, for the craftsman who sees his work finished before it begins. Creation begins in imagination and moves through faith into form. The Ethiopian scrolls describe this process in sacred language. He who sees with the inner eye commands the outer world. To see with the inner eye is to visualize, to hold a mental image charged with emotion and belief. Visualization is not idle fantasy. It is the deliberate shaping of spiritual substance. Every picture held long enough in mind attracts the materials necessary for its realization. I have often been asked, does this mean any thought can create reality? The answer is yes, if it is definite, emotional, and persistent enough. But most men's thoughts are like passing shadows, changing with every mood. They wish for riches today and fear poverty tomorrow. They declare health at sunrise and talk of disease by nightfall. They affirm success but expect failure. Thus, their minds send mixed signals. And the universe, impartial and exact, reproduces confusion. The law cannot be mocked. It does not choose sides. It simply reflects what it receives. If you picture yourself as a victim, it will supply the circumstances to match. If you picture yourself as a master, it will send the means to prove it. The creative power of thought is both a blessing and a judgment. It rewards precision and punishes neglect. Every man lives in a world of his own making. Some inhabit kingdoms of harmony, others dwell in prisons of their own thought. You can trace every joy, every sorrow, every gain, and every loss back to the mental pattern that preceded it. The outer world is a mirror. Nothing more, nothing less. In Outwitting the Devil, I asked the adversary why so few men achieve greatness. His answer was simple. They do not think for themselves. They pray for what they already possess. He was right. Men beg for wisdom while ignoring the voice of intelligence within them. They ask for strength while speaking weakness. They plead for opportunity while imagining failure. And the law, which never sleeps, grants them what they truly believe, not what they merely wish. If you wish to prove this, begin with something small. Picture yourself calm in situations that once disturbed you. See it, feel it, believe it, and repeat the image until it becomes natural. Soon the outer event will conform to your inner peace. Then enlarge your experiment. Visualize health, success, companionship, or whatever your definite purpose requires. Do this with faith, and life will rearrange itself around your image. The Ethiopian text, known as the Book of Wisdom, expresses this law in simple words. The world is clay, the mind is the potter. You cannot blame the clay if the vessel is misshapen. You must change the hand that molds it, your thought. Many men misunderstand this law and turn it into superstition. They repeat words mechanically, believing that magic lies in sound. but repetition without emotion is powerless. The subconscious mind responds not to empty words, but to feeling. One phrase spoken with conviction outweighs 1,000 spoken with indifference. This is why daily autosuggestion, the deliberate feeding of constructive thoughts into the mind, is the most sacred of all disciplines. It is not self-deception. It is self-direction. Every morning, every night, and every hour you can spare, repeat to yourself your definite purpose, affirming it as already accomplished. Picture its completion, feel the satisfaction, and live mentally in its reality. This is not fantasy. It is faith in motion. Faith, rightly understood, is scientific. It is not an appeal to chance, but an operation of law. When you believe in a thing so completely that your mind accepts it as real, every atom of your being moves toward its fulfillment. The subconscious acts upon it. Infinite intelligence coordinates circumstances. Opportunities appear, and the path opens before you. The world calls it luck. The wise call it law. Every miracle recorded in history is an instance of this law. When Jesus said, "According to your faith be it unto you," he was stating a scientific principle. He did not heal men by violating law, but by using it. He saw the sick as whole, the blind as seeing, the dead as alive, and held that image so perfectly that matter rearranged itself to match the vision. He knew that the creative energy of God flows through the mind of man as thought. The words, "Let there be light," were not commands to the heavens, but commands to the mind. The devil fears this understanding above all, for it makes man independent. When you know that thought governs matter, you cannot be enslaved by superstition or by fear. You cease to be a beggar and become a creator. You no longer look to others for permission to succeed, nor to circumstances for opportunity. You command both through thought. Consider how this law operates even in the smallest acts of life. A man imagines a meal and his hands prepare it. He imagines a journey and his feet walk it. He imagines an invention and tools obey him. Every act begins in imagination. Every result is its echo. Thought is the first motion of all creation. The great failure of mankind has been ignorance of this truth. Men have feared their own minds, calling imagination dangerous, ambition sinful, and desire evil. But desire, purified by purpose, is the very breath of creation. Without it, the world would stand still. Desire is not to be suppressed but directed, guided by faith and controlled by discipline. Desire becomes dangerous only when it drifts without aim. Then it turns inward and consumes itself. But when harnessed to a definite purpose and lifted by faith, it becomes the creative fire of God. Every builder, artist, and leader who has shaped civilization has used this fire consciously or unconsciously. The saints called it inspiration. The scientists call it insight. The philosophers call it intuition. It is all the same power, the movement of infinite intelligence through the focused mind. Let no man say, "I am not creative." Every thought you think creates. You may create harmony or discord, joy or misery, wealth or want, but create you must, for creation is the nature of mind. The only question is whether you create by design or by default. If you would create by design, practice this daily exercise. Choose one definite desire. Write it clearly in the present tense, as though already achieved. Visualize it with detail. Feel the gratitude and certainty of its reality. Repeat this process at least twice daily, morning and night. Do not strain, do not doubt. Let the image grow natural and familiar as a home to which you are returning. In time, it will become so real to your inner sense that the outer world must conform. This is law, as reliable as the sunrise. The Ethiopian teachers called this the harmony of the inner and outer voice. They said that when the mind speaks one thing and the heart feels another, creation halts. But when both speak the same word, the universe rushes to obey. The word amen at the end of a prayer was not meant as conclusion but as affirmation. So it is. When spoken with faith, it seals the image into form. To live by this law is to walk as a king among men. You cease to fear circumstances, for you know they are your servants. You cease to envy others, for you know the same power works through all. You cease to doubt the future, for you are building it with every thought. You no longer say, I hope. You say, I know. You no longer say, I wish. You say, I will. You no longer drift. You decide. You no longer react. You create. And in this transformation, you rediscover the lost secret of the ages, the secret that heaven is not a reward, but a result, not a place, but a process of mind in harmony with law. Let this affirmation be written upon your heart. What I hold in thought with conviction, life must mirror in form. Speak it until it becomes certainty. Think it until it becomes identity. For the mind that knows this truth cannot fail, cannot fear, and cannot be enslaved. It has entered dominion, the kingdom of heaven within. The human mind is the greatest of all gates, the entrance through which either heaven or hell enters man's life. Yet few ever learn to guard it. They allow every sound, sight, and rumor to pass its threshold. They wander from thought to thought as a drunkard wanders through alleys. They open the gate to fear in the morning and to worry at night. They wonder why peace flees from them, why success eludes them, why joy fades like smoke. The answer is simple. They have never learned the law of controlled attention. In my interview with the devil, I asked him directly, by what means do you enter the mind of man? His answer was as cold as it was precise. I enter when a man's attention is not upon his own thought. That was his confession. The adversary needs no permission, only neglect. When attention is scattered, the devil walks in. When attention is focused, he is blinded by the light and retreats. The Ethiopian masters taught this law under another name, the single eye. They wrote, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. The single eye is controlled attention, the ability to hold one image, one purpose, one direction in mind without wavering. It is the secret of genius, the key to peace, the gate of heaven itself. Controlled attention is the spiritual discipline behind all achievement. Every invention, every work of art, every act of greatness was born of it. When a man learns to hold his mind upon one idea until that idea burns through every obstacle, he becomes the master of circumstance. When he allows his attention to be divided between many desires, he becomes the servant of confusion. The mind is not unlike a lens. Unfocused, it diffuses light into weakness. Focused, it gathers power strong enough to burn through steel. Attention is that lens. It can either scatter your power across 1,000 trifles or concentrate it into one definite purpose. The law makes no distinction. It obeys direction. Modern men have filled their minds with noise. They live in distraction and call it progress. They carry the entire world's chatter in their pockets and wonder why they cannot hear the voice of infinite intelligence. They drift through endless stimulation, gossip, entertainment, fear, and argument, and then say they have no peace. Peace is not absent. It is drowned in noise. The Ethiopian sages warned of this centuries ago. He who listens to many winds hears no music. They meant that the mind must choose its object, for the world is full of competing vibrations, Every voice you permit to enter your attention takes a portion of your creative power. Each hour of idle talk, each moment of gossip, each indulgence in envy or complaint is a leak in the reservoir of your mind. Controlled attention begins with the act of closing those leaks. Learn to be silent. Learn to turn off the stream of idle words and useless images. Learn to sit with your own thought until it becomes your servant rather than your master. When you can hold one idea without being pulled by 10 others, you have taken your first step into mastery. You cannot control what you will not observe. Therefore, the first discipline is awareness, to watch your own thought. The Ethiopian text, Wisdom of Light, says, "Guard the doorway of your mind as a king guards his treasury." Every idea that enters your consciousness will grow unless rejected. Ask of each thought, does this serve my definite purpose? If it does not, dismiss it at once. A man's attention is his life. Whatever holds it grows stronger. Whatever he neglects grows weaker. This is why men fail. They feed their fears and starve their faith. They dwell upon obstacles, talk about problems, imagine defeat, and then are surprised when failure appears. They have been watering weeds and wondering why no flowers bloom. Controlled attention reverses this process. It takes every idle moment and turns it into creation. Instead of imagining disaster, you imagine triumph. Instead of dwelling on loss, you dwell on gain. Instead of worrying about what you cannot control, you hold your thought on what you can. The universe expands whatever you concentrate upon. Attention is the magnet of experience. When you dwell on fear, you invite its form. When you dwell on faith, you awaken its power. When you dwell on success, you attract opportunity. This is not wishful thinking, it is law. Attention organizes the forces of the mind, and the mind organizes the forces of circumstance. The devil cannot enter a mind under control. He cannot tempt a man who is busy directing his own thought. His entire empire depends on distraction. He sends 1,000 small noises to steal your attention: gossip, irritation, fatigue, curiosity, vanity. Anything to keep you from thinking of what matters. His purpose is not to make you evil, but to make you scattered, for a scattered mind is powerless. Jesus said, "Watch and pray." Most have read those words as instruction for religion. I read them as a formula for dominion. Watch means to observe your thought. Pray means to fix it upon your purpose. To watch and pray is to practice controlled attention. The man who does this continually cannot be moved by the storms of life, for his thought stands like a lighthouse upon a rock. The Ethiopian scriptures describe this same practice as setting the face toward the light. When the ancient monks of Axum rose at dawn, they would face east in silence, holding their gaze upon the horizon. It was not the sun they worshipped, but the principle of unwavering attention. They trained their minds to follow light until they could hold it inwardly even through the night. This was the meaning of prayer without ceasing. To master attention is to possess peace. A mind that can remain still upon one point of faith cannot be disturbed. When you hold your thought upon what is good, all that is unlike it fades. When you hold it upon truth, error dissolves. When you hold it upon harmony, discord disappears. The world outside is only the mirror of the world within. Change the image and the reflection obeys. I have seen men of power who embodied this principle. One of them was John D. Rockefeller. During crises that would have broken lesser men, he remained calm as stone. While others panicked, he withdrew into silence, focusing upon his purpose with mathematical precision. When questioned about his composure, he replied, I never allow my mind to leave the problem until I find its profit. That was not greed. It was control. The man who can think clearly in chaos becomes ruler of it. Controlled attention is also the foundation of happiness. The unhappy man is not cursed by fate. He is cursed by divided thought. He tries to hold joy in one hand and fear in the other. He attempts to live in the present while clinging to the past. He allows his attention to wander between regret and anxiety until peace is lost. Happiness is not something to be found. It is the natural condition of an undistracted mind. The Ethiopian sages expressed it thus: heaven begins when the mind stands still upon truth. The still mind does not mean an empty one. It means a mind filled only with what is worthy. It is not absence of thought, but mastery of it. To hold your attention upon truth until it becomes identity is to enter heaven while still in the body. How does one attain this mastery? Through daily discipline. The mind, like the muscles, grows strong through use. You cannot control your attention once and be free forever. You must practice until it becomes habit. Begin with small exercises. Choose one image, perhaps your definite purpose, and hold it for 5 minutes without interruption. When distraction arises, gently return. Do not scold yourself. Persistence is the key. Next, extend the exercise to your daily life. When you work, work with full attention. When you rest, rest completely. When you speak, be present in your words. When you listen, listen without drifting. Each moment of awareness strengthens your mastery. The habit of controlled attention